Part 226. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2252. Zhang Xiangbei got up in the morning, thought about it, and decided to call Wu Huan. As long as the Agricultural Reclamation Office agreed, he would hand over to them in the early stage, sign a land transfer agreement with the village, and apply for an industrial and commercial business license, including removing the tea garden on the mountain. Leveling the land, etc., all need to be arranged by someone. Even if you recruit yourself, you will not be able to recruit anyone more suitable than Bao Tianbin. In addition, he still has a lot of things to do outside. He has to consult experts and professors, hire researchers from the institute, and go to other pastures to learn from their breeding experience. He even needs to go to Japan to visit the old farm. Chiao family, please learn how to raise Japanese Wagyu beef. Not to mention having to look for high-quality breeding cattle at home and abroad. There are so many things to do, and it would be impossible without a person like Bao Tianbin. Zhang Xiangbei felt that it would be better for Bao Tianbin to say hello to Wu Huan in advance before Bao Tianbin went to talk to Wu Huan. Zhang Xiangbei dialed Wu Huan's number. As soon as the call came through, Wu Huan shouted on the other end of the phone. "Oh Mr. Zhang, why are you thinking of me when you are not with your beautiful lady?" "What, you want to refuse the call?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "No, I'm flattered," Wu Huan said with a smile. "What are your orders, Mr. Zhang?" "How am I qualified to give you orders? I just want to ask you for help." Zhang Xiangbei then told Wu Huan that he and Xiangnan were in Hainan. They had just visited a place yesterday and found it suitable. He was planning to build a cattle farm in Hainan. "No way, Mr. Zhang, don't scare me." "Are you going to raise cattle?" Wu Huan called on the phone. "What, no, are you going to discriminate against me?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "Don't dare, I'm thinking, Mr. Zhang, you are not old enough to live in seclusion yet. If you want to raise cattle, you will definitely have different ideas from others. Can you tell me?" "Of course, it's not a secret," Zhang Xiangbei said, "since it's a ranch, raising cattle and selling meat is of course a must. However, the more important thing is that I want to breed cattle here that are better than Japan's Kobe Wagyu is even better than beef." "Okay, then your beef is covered by our Zaxian delivery. I will help you sell as much as you have, focusing on the introduction, so that the profit of your ranch can maintain your improvement plan without any problem," Wu Huan said. Zhang Xiangbei quickly said, "Thank you, Wu Huan." "No, Mr. Zhang, when you called me, you didn't ask me to help you sell beef, right? Now you don't even have beef hair, so where can you get the beef?" Wu Huan thought for a while and said, "I understand, you trying to poach me?" Zhang Xiangbei said, "Yes, I am alone now." "Who do you want to poach? Bao Tianbin?" "Mr. Zhang, did I guess correctly?" Wu Huan asked. Zhang Xiangbei said yes, it was Bao Tianbin. He was familiar with Hainan. "I had to work here and I couldn't do it without his help. I didn't even speak the language." "How about it, Wu Huan? If you agree, I will do his work," Zhang Xiangbei said. "I don't have any objection to you poaching me. I definitely have no problem here, as long as Lao Bao agrees," Wu Huan said. "By the way, Mr. Zhang, no kidding, why don't you poach me too?" Zhang Xiangbei laughed loudly. "I don't dare, my temple is small and I can't let you go yet. When I really breed the best beef cattle in the world, I will treat you again." "Okay, Mr. Zhang, we have made an agreement and we will not go back on it then," Wu Huan said. "Of course not, thank you, Wu Huan." "Thank you. As long as you are nice, I will be happy." After Wu Huan finished speaking, he hung up the phone. "There is nothing to do today. Zhang Xiangbei told Bao Tianbin last night that they are not going anywhere today and are just in Haikan. Bao Tianbin should not worry about them and deal with the fresh food delivery matter first. They will meet again when there is news from Kyungshong. Bao Tianbin left his car with Zhang Xiangbei and told Zhang Xiangbei that he could drive around Haikan during the day, going to the west coast, Haidian Island, and Kilu Old Street to survey the terrain. By the way, is Xinbu Island developed now? Zhang Xiangbei asked. He remembered that Lu Ligan and Meng Ping, when they were in Haikan, their biggest dream was to transform Xinbu Island, and they were also set on this dream. When he was a child, Zhang Xiangbei saw the renderings and plan of Xinbu Island that his father helped Lu Ligan design in the study room at home. At that time, Lu Ligan entrusted Chu Tianlin to help print the plan in Shenzhen. After that, Zhang Chen kept 2 copies. It has been developed for a long time. By the way, tomorrow night, I will take you to Xinbu Island to eat seafood. There is the largest seafood hotel in Haikan there, Bao Tianbin said. Zhang Xiangbei quickly said, let's talk tomorrow, don't make any arrangements yet, maybe we wander somewhere and see something we want to eat, so we can go in and eat it. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan finished washing up slowly and went downstairs. Instead of going to the restaurant for breakfast, they drove to Kuomao Yihan Road to eat noodle soup at the same place they had eaten yesterday. After eating the noodle soup, Zhang drove north to Xinbu Island and walked around the island. The dog-head-shaped island is now close to the Kyungshu Strait in the north and the outlet of the Hangagu River. It looks like an open sea. The entire bay in Guzui is a country garden project. The central and southern parts, all the way to the Xinbu Bridge connecting Changde Road, have been divided by countless small developers. After going around in a circle, Zhang Xiangbei kept lamenting in his heart that it was a pity. He felt that the current layout of the island was incomparable with his father's original design. The so-called untimely birth is probably what he meant. Uncle Zanzi and Uncle Mengping, if they come here 10 years later to spread their dreams, then this place will be theirs. And Xinbu Island will definitely be more beautiful and attractive than now. Zhang Xiangbei doesn't know whether this is the regret of Uncle Ganzi and the others, or the regret of Xinbu Island, or even the whole Haikan. It is the tallest unfinished building in Haikan, and the largest project in Haikan. Lu Ligan was so high-spirited back then, but now, not only here, but in the entire Haikan, there is no trace of him, nor is there any trace of Zhang. There are traces of Chen Chen, and the projects designed by Zhang Chen have already been replaced with new storefronts, or have been pushed and rebuilt, such as Wanghai Building. Zhang Xiangbei didn't know if Tan Shahen knew what Lu Ligan had experienced in Haikan. When she set foot in Haikan, Haikan had not yet become popular again. At that time, if she wanted to capture Xinbu Island again, she still had a chance. But Zhang Xiangbei felt her and carefully avoided it. Xiangnan saw Zhang Xiangbei walking and thinking, and Xiangnan asked him what he was thinking about. Zhang Xiangbei said he didn't think about anything, but Xiangnan didn't ask again. She guessed that Zhang Xiangbei was thinking about the ranch. Zhang Xiangbei was very similar to Zhang Chen in that he didn't have anything in mind. If you tell others, you will just keep it in your heart and let things slowly improve and mature. When he figures it out, you can't stop him, and he will definitely tell you himself. In fact, Zhang Xiangbei knew that Xiang Nan was not willing to talk about Lu Ligan, so he did not tell Xiang Nan what he was thinking. When it was almost 11 o'clock, while they were still on Xinbu Island, Zhang Xiangbei's phone rang. It was Lao Xie. Zhang Xiangbei quickly picked up the phone and called Uncle Xie. Lao Xie and Zhang Xiangbei said, "The boss of the farm and I are having tea, your matter is settled." "Really? Great. Thank you, Uncle Xie," Zhang Xiangbei shouted. Lao Xie also smiled on the other end of the phone. He said, "You're welcome, it's a trivial matter. But, Bai, just pretend you don't know about this. County Magistrate Zhen and others will come to the farm to find them in the afternoon, so let them use this favor, let's do it for the county, so that the relationship will be easier to handle in the future." Okay, I understand, Uncle Xie. Zhang Xiangbei nodded repeatedly. After hanging up the phone, Xiongnan asked, "Is it done?" "It's done," Zhang Xiangbei said. "Then are you going to call Lao Bao?" Xiangnan asked. Zhang Xiangbei said, "Wait a little longer. When County Magistrate Zhen calls, I will talk to him again." Xiangnan nodded. The two of them arrived at the bridgehead of Xinbu Bridge and had lunch at the Jinshumen Riverside Seafood Restaurant at the bridgehead. In the afternoon, the two of them drove to Hiken Park for a stroll. The park was very ordinary and far inferior to the World Tropical Botanical Garden in Sanya. The two of them went in. I went in with a sense of nostalgia. After going in and looking around, Zhang Xiangbei said, "It wouldn't be too painful to sleep on the grass in a park like this in summer like this." Xiangnan looked at him and both of them laughed. Of course Xiangnan knew what Zhang Xiangbei was talking about. When they were children, they heard their parents, especially Lu Ligan, talk about their first visit to Hiken countless times. The story of sleeping in the park at night and having the flashlight stolen. When Lu Ligan talked about it, he was very tragic and impassioned. Listening to Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan, they felt that it was similar to the Red Army's long march climbing snow-capped mountains and crossing grasslands. After seeing it on the spot, they felt a little romantic. It's no wonder. If they were like Lu Ligan and Zhang Chen at that time, they were short of money and didn't know how they would survive in this strange city. They can no longer be romantic. Just like reading a poem like "The summer insects are also silent for me" / "Silence is tonight's Cambridge," you feel that the summer insects are all romantic and considerate, but if you sit outside on a summer night, the summer insects are silent to you when you swarm over, you must feel that they are annoying and there is no trace of romance. We parked the car at the entrance of Hiken Park, and walked hand in hand to visit Hiken Old Street. Hiken Old Street spans several blocks. It is a large and well-preserved old block in China, and is similar to Jiangsu, Zhejiang, and Shanghai. The ancient towns and old streets of Hiken are different in location, but generally they have different faces. The architectural style of Hiken Old Street is different from that of all old streets in mainland China. The old street buildings here are basically in the Nanyang arcade style. They were all built by overseas Chinese from Nanyang when they returned to China. After 1949, the entire Hainan Island has been the most underdeveloped administrative office in Guangdong. Because of its backwardness, no major construction projects have been carried out. The old streets here, the whole thing was preserved. After Hainan was established as a province, Hiken became the new provincial capital. In order to save the trouble of demolition, it started from Hiken Park and the original provincial capital road, now Haifa Road, and expanded to the southwest. There are large tracts of the original. The land belonging to the China Southern Airlines troops has forgotten the old city in the northeast. So much so that Hiken became two distinct urban areas in those years, starting from the triangle area at the intersection of Shenfu Road, going north, and entering Boa South Road, and all you can hear in your ears is Hainan Eset. Going south, walking along Haixiu Road, you will hear mostly Mandarin. Even in the craziest years of Hainan real estate, those who speculated on red line plans and off-the-plan properties were all eager to make quick money. Who was willing to waste time on protracted demolition? The entire old area of Hiken still did not rise. The climax of demolition. Everyone's attention and interest are still extending along Haixiu Road. After the construction of the past Kuomao block on Longkan North Road, the farther World Trade Block will be built. The area around Longkan South Road is well laid out, and the airport has begun to be demolished again, releasing a large amount of land. In the past, Jinni Yuling still had land for farming. After the Century Bridge was opened, more land was brought to Haidian Island. In the waves of development, Hiken Old Street was completely preserved because of being forgotten and the trouble of demolition. It was not until everyone was shocked that it turned out that the old town is also an unreplicable wealth of the city, let alone people will have no idea about the old city. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan were shopping here, from Boa South to Boa North, and from Deshengsha to Zhongshan Road and Jifang Road. The two of them walked and ate street snacks, feeling that their stomachs were always full. If there is a slight gap, food will fill it, stuffing it completely. The old arcade streets here are not like many places where they are newly built old buildings, or so-called renovated as before, but they are originally well preserved, and people have always lived in them. Despite the renovations, it is basically still original. The window lintels, pillars, wall shapes, waistlines, balconies, railings, carvings, etc. all have an obvious exotic feel. The colorful porcelain flower patterns on the walls, parapets, arcades, colonnades, and loggias are in the Baroque style, with mixed cultural characteristics of Europe and Asia. The herringbone roof is covered with blue tiles, and mascots are placed on it. It has traditional Chinese and Western styles. South Sea, Indian, and Arabian styles all blend together harmoniously here. On some houses, shop names and signboards in traditional Chinese before the 1949 movement were written and made with plaster, as well as slogans in simplified Chinese characters after the 1949 movement. The long live script solidified the vicissitudes of the years and the traces of time. It's here. In the summer afternoon, the sunshine outside was very fierce. The promenade under the arcade was connected to a long and winding road. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan walked hand in hand on the promenade. They did not feel the hardship of being exposed at all. I walked in and out of each store very calmly and browsed leisurely. At around 4 o'clock, Zhang Xiangbei's phone rang. This time, it was County Magistrate Zhen. Magistrate Zhen was still farming. He called Zhang Xiangbei directly from their office. County Magistrate Zhen and Zhang Xiangbei said that several leaders of the farm appreciate your project and support the economic development of our county. They have agreed to transfer the tea factory in Kaohsiung to you as a breeding farm. Zhang Xiangbei pretended to hear the news for the first time and shouted happily, "That's great, Magistrate Zhen, thank you for making a special trip from Kaohsiung in such a hot weather." County Magistrate Zhen chuckled, "What does it matter if you make one trip? As long as your project can be implemented in our Kaohsiung, I will make 10 trips or 100 trips. Fortunately, several leaders here are very considerate of me. They didn't even let me run away the second time." Zhang Xiangbei said, "Thank you, and thank you to the leaders of the farm. In this way, County Magistrate Zhen, I will treat you to dinner tonight, and you will definitely appreciate it." Okay, County Magistrate Zhen was also happy and agreed immediately, saying, "But when we get to Hainan, of course I will treat you." Zhang Xiangbei immediately said, "This is Haikan, and you are also a foreigner here. Please let me fulfill my wish." "Okay, it's better to obey orders than to be respectful. I will drag these guys along as well," County Magistrate Zhen said. Zhang Xiangbei said, "Yes, I will send you the address later." After hanging up the phone, Zhang Xiangbei was worried about where to treat guests in the evening. He was not familiar with Haikan. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan said, "Now I have to call Lao Bao. I want him to book a place for the evening and he has to come to participate. He will inevitably have to deal with these leaders in the future." Xiang Nan said, "Lao Bao wants to participate in the meal, but as for where to eat, I think you'd better ask Mr. Xie." Zhang Xiangbei thought it made sense. Lao Xie was the one who dealt with people like them every day, and he knew where the arrangement was appropriate. Zhang Xiangbei called Mr. Xie and told Mr. Xie about the matter. Mr. Xie said that although it is not a violation of discipline to entertain or be invited to dinners for investment promotion and United Front work, it is always not good outside and he will not be able to enjoy the meal. "You'd better come to me." "The company's canteen?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. Lao Xie laughed on the other end of the phone and said, "Bai Bei, you're treating me to a treat. Of course it's your restaurant. I'll call their boss now." Zhang Xiangbei suddenly realized that what Lao Xie said was that the place was placed at his place and the cook was from the Haikan branch of catering men and women. How could he have forgotten this? This was really better. Treating guests is more natural. Zhang Xiangbei called and told County Magistrate Zhen the address. Magistrate Zhen took the phone and said it again. Zhang Xiangbei heard someone next to him say, "Isn't this Lao Xie's place?" I know. Zhang Xiangbei couldn't help but smile as he held the phone. Thank you to Tin Soldier, Brokeback Mountain, ranked third from top to bottom, reading books every day, 2 fishes at one time, and 3 o'clock in the middle of the night for the reward. Thank you to Zipanjiang 1, Kingbo, Yuzazialiu, Little Gatekeeper, Zongkai 727, and Buletin Dexian for your monthly passes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2253. Zhang Xiangbei signed an agreement with Nankan. Nankan transferred their tea factory area and entire tea garden in Kayangshong, totaling 7,121 acres, to Zhangxiang at a price of 38,000 yuan per mu. Bei, the unit that signed the agreement with Agricultural Reclamation is Hainan North-South Agricultural Development Co., Limited, which Zhang Xiangbei has applied for pre-registration in Haikan. The south of North and South is Xiongnan, and the North is Zhang Xiangbei himself. The transfer amount of 270,598,000 yuan was transferred to Zhang Xiangbei's account at once. On both sides of the stream, there were creek beaches belonging to the local village. Including this stream, the total area was 535.7 acres. The village transferred it to Zhang Xiangbei at the same price. In addition, County Magistrate Zhen complied with the agreement between himself and Zhang Xiangbei and set the price of 20 acres of residential land in the county at 320,000 yuan per mu. The auctioneer must invest more than 800 million yuan in Kayangshong. With tailor-made conditions for agricultural and breeding projects, the land was auctioned to Zhang Xiangbei in a targeted manner. This price, in Lao Xie's words, is like picking it up now. The county government's support for this project is evident. After signing the agreement and paying the relevant amounts, Bao Tianbin handled the remaining procedures. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan were preparing to return to Hangzhou, but Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan rushed over and said they wanted to give Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan the money. This project to the north needs to be carefully planned. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan had to stay in Haikan for 2 more days. What Zhang Xiangbei didn't expect was that Gu Gong and Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan came together, which made him quite happy. Everyone went to Kayangshong together, and Lao Xie and Bao Tianbin also went with them. Standing at the scene, Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan both thought it was a good place. Lu Ligan and Zhang Xiangbei said, "This can be made into a scenic spot in Kayangshong." Zhang Xiangbei remained silent, thinking to himself, wasn't this about letting him have some farmhouse fun? He had promised County Magistrate Zhen at the beginning that he was just raising cattle honestly and would not have any farmhouse fun. Lu Ligan seemed to know what Zhang Xiangbei was thinking, and said to him, "Bai Bei, don't be so stubborn. I am not asking you to engage in farm entertainment. The starting point of people doing farm entertainment is to make money, and farm entertainment is just a means and embellishment. You have to raise cattle here, but it won't stop you from doing side business. Pastoral songs are also very beautiful pictures, which can attract people." Zhang Xiangbei almost laughed out loud. Wasn't this just asking him to make this place like the Rocco Ranch in Kobe? Going around and around, he wondered whether he would have to make something he disliked again in his own hands. "What your uncle said is right," Zhang Chen said, "you don't need to spend much more investment. It's just to add some facilities for tourists. This place can be very beautiful. This will not affect your breeding industry at all. There are more people coming to play and tasting beef here, which will also be good for you to promote this brand in the future. Now the wine is fragrant but the alley is too deep. The money you earn from your side job can increase the benefits of your employees and increase employment. This is a multi-purpose thing," Lu Ligan said, Look at the current Three Gorges Power Station, Zikane Satellite Launch Base, and even Tiananmen Square have changed. It has become a tourist attraction. Do you think it is embarrassing to be a tourist? By the way, if you start it, you can rent 2 houses to our people's tourism industry. Mr. Zhang and Mr. Lu are right, this is the icing on the cake, Gu Gonggai said to Zhang Xiangbei. Zhang Xiangbei thought what they said made sense, especially the idea of opening a beef restaurant here. It was indeed a good idea. Zhang Xiangbei and Zhang Chen said, "Okay, you help me plan, and I'll write you what I need." Zhang Chen glanced at Zhang Xiangbei and said nothing, which was his acquiescence. After returning from Kayangshong, they did not go back to Haikan, but went directly to Ding'an. Bao Tianbin called Ahua and Lao Chi and made an appointment with them to wait directly at the beef street on Xianggusi Yuan Road. Ahua said, "It's still the same as last time. There were so many people at night and it was hard to find a parking space here." Bao Tianbin said yes. When they arrived at the door of the unit, they saw Ahua and Lao Chi waiting at the door of the unit. The gate to the yard was closed. Ahua saw them arriving and asked the old man in the reception room to open the door. The 2 cars went in. The old man in the reception room immediately closed the door again, fearing that other cars would follow. As everyone stood there, Zhang Xiangbei introduced Zhang Chen, Lu Ligan, Gu Gong, and Lao Xie to Lao Chi and Ahua. Zhang Xiangbei was worried that Gu Gong's actions would cause Lao Chi to misunderstand. I specifically called Lao Chi aside and said to him, "This friend of ours specializes in food. He likes to do everything by himself. President Xi doesn't mind what he wants to do or what he says later. Let him do it." Lao Chi understood and nodded with a smile. The group of people walked to the beef street. As expected, there were many times more people here than when Zhang Xiangbei and the others came at noon that day. The little girl was everywhere shouting "Move, move, move, artery beef, now killed beef" sound. Everyone who buys beef is also attracted by the beef hanging there and being pumped on the chopping board. The more vigorously moving the beef is, the more people buy it. "I'll go. The beef here can really move," the ghost of the castle, Lu Ligan shouted. They looked at the stalls one by one. From time to time, Gugu would bend down and look at the pieces of beef. He asked Lao Chi, "How do we make the beef here?" Lao Chi said, "Frying and making hot pot." Gu Gong sighed and said, "Can't it be stir-fried? In fact, young scalpers taste best when stir-fried." Lao Chi said, "Yes, we can borrow their pot and fry it ourselves." Zhang Xiangbei listened to it and was secretly happy. It seemed that his judgment was correct when he came here for the first time. The meat of this calf is firm and has less fat, so frying is the best choice. Gu Gong stretched out his right hand, curled his fingers one by one, and said to everyone, "Let's buy 3 kinds of beef, 1 for frying, 1 for stir-frying, and 1 for hot pot, okay?" Lu Ligan shouted, "You make the decision, we can eat whatever we have." When they arrived at the 3rd stall, Gu Gong saw a piece of meat on the chopping board. This piece of meat was about 2 kilograms. Gu Gong turned it over with his hands and said to the boss, "Give us this piece." The boss was very happy and quickly said yes. Zhang Xiangbei knew why the boss was so happy. This piece of beef was on the chopping board and could no longer be moved. Anyone who came here to buy beef wanted to buy moving beef. All beef had the same price. Naturally, this piece of beef was untouchable. People are interested in it, and it has been placed here for more than an hour, but it has not been sold. The boss is worried, but he did not expect such a fool to take a fancy to it. Bao Tianbin reminded, "Gonggu, this piece of meat can no longer move. It has been left here for at least half an hour." He still remembered what Lao Chi told them last time, that the freshly killed beef would move around for half an hour. Gu Gong smiled and said, "This piece of meat will not move even if it has just been killed. The meat that moves very much is the meat of the front and rear legs and the shoulder blades." "What is this piece?" Bao Tianbin asked. Gu Gong didn't say anything. After walking away, he proudly told them, I missed it. This is a whole piece of fillet. Lao Chi was stunned for a moment and asked, not cucumber strips? No, it's fillet, Gu Gong said. What is fillet? What are cucumber strips? Bao Tianbin asked. The cucumber strip is the semitendinosus muscle on the butt of the cow, and the fillet is the tenderloin. It is below the cow's spine and in front of the waist. To be more precise, it is the tenderloin. There is only one strip in a cow, Gu Gong said. Who makes filet mignon? Zhang Xiangbei asked. Yes, Gu Gong said, however, many of the filet mignon you see in steak houses are pretended to be cucumber strips and are not real filet mignon. At the next stall, Gu Gong chose between two pieces of beef. He and Zhang Xiangbei said that of the two pieces, one is sirloin, which is called sirloin in Hong Kong. This is the New Yorker you eat in the United States. This is the meat. One piece is the ribeye. The two pieces of meat are actually connected together. The only difference is that the sirloin is in the front half of the sirloin and the ribeye is in the back of the sirloin. By the way, the fillet we just bought is under the sirloin, separated from the sirloin by a T-bone. If you eat T-bone steak, you can eat sirloin and fillet at the same time. Gu Gong said, putting down the sirloin and telling the boss, I want this piece. Gu Gong explained to them that the meat we fried already had a fillet, so we would not buy sirloin. Ribeye is good for hot pot. This is tenderer than sirloin, and sirloin will be harder for hot pot. Then, Gu Gong asked the boss to take a moving piece of beef and told them that it was the outer leg meat and was best used for stir-frying. While Gu Gong was choosing, he said that he knew that Zhang Xiangbei was very interested in this and explained it very carefully. Even Lao Chi, who was standing by, secretly admired him and felt that this guy's vision was even better than their chef's. Such as the piece just now, Lao Chi felt that it was difficult for him to distinguish whether it was cucumber strips or tenderloin. Not only could he tell that it was tenderloin, but he could also tell that it was tenderloin. Lu Ligan and Zhang Chen looked at each other and shook their heads. Lu Ligan said, in my opinion, meat is meat, just eat it. How can it be so verbose? Gu Gong laughed loudly and said, people say that regardless of good or bad tea, drinking the same tea is called niuyin. Mr. Lu, you can only say that you are eating meat like this. You have the spirit of swimming in Liangshan. Everyone laughed. They then bought beef brains, livers, and ribs. When we arrived at Jia Jia Beef Restaurant, the place was packed with people. There was only one big table specially reserved for them. Unlike Lao Chi, who cut and marinated the meat first and then put it in the refrigerator, Gu Gong directly put the 3 pieces of meat in the refrigerator. Refrigerate first. When he walked to the front door of the store, he took out his cigarettes, put 2 cigarettes behind the ears of the busy chefs, and told them, I'm causing you trouble. They went to sit down at the empty table and waited. Gu Gong and Zhang Chen said that they were so busy now. They must hate us guys who make our own decisions. It disrupted their work. It would be best to do what they said. Lao Chi said from the side, it's okay, they all understand me. I was thinking to myself, no wonder this guy is so powerful and so attentive, he is able to detect things that others cannot observe. Bao Tianbin couldn't help it anymore and asked the consultant, why did you just put the meat in the refrigerator? Gu Gong looked to the side and whispered to them. Actually, beef that moves like this is the least particular way to eat it, and it is also the least delicious. If there is no beef, it is wrong to say that you have to eat fresh beef. To be precise, you have to choose fresh beef. Yes, but it must be processed and the acid must be discharged, usually around 0 degrees, and it takes 6 or 7 hours to discharge the acid. We don't have that much time, so it takes at least an hour. What does acid discharge mean? Lu Ligan asked. Mr. Zhang and President Qi should also know that not only beef, but also pork, actually needs to be acidified to taste better, Gu Gong said. I don't know, just tell me, Lu Ligan said. Bao Tianbin said, I don't know either. Gu Gong said with a smile, after the cow is killed, the body cells continue to move. At this time, the cow's blood has stopped flowing. The body cells are in a state of hypoxia and can only perform anaerobic respiration, which will produce a large amount of lactic acid. The pH value of fresh muscle drops to acidic, myosin combines with myofibrillin to form myosin, and ultimately causes muscle contraction. It just turned into a zombie, Zhang Xiangbei told Lu Ligan and Bao Tianbin when he saw that they were confused. That's right, Gu Gong smiled. To be more precise, this stage is called rigor mortis, which means the corpse begins to stiffen. Although it is harmless to the human body, it affects the taste. Hey, can you still make people eat well? Xiang Nan asked, and everyone laughed. Lao Chi said, I know that beef and pork need to be acidified, but I can't explain so much. So, whether it's beef or pork, the most delicious meat is not frozen meat or fresh meat, but chilled meat, Gu Gong said. You'd better explain it clearly, Lu Ligan said. Gu Gong said, it's very simple. Fresh meat has not been deacidified. Frozen meat is quick frozen at -18 degrees. At this time, the deacidification of the meat is also stopped. As I said before, the deacidification of meat is between 0 and 4 degrees room, which is the temperature of the refrigerator and freezer. At this time, lactic acid will be decomposed into carbon dioxide, water, and alcohol to evaporate. At the same time, the large molecule adenosine triphosphate in the beef cells will be decomposed into fresh substances, base glycosides under the action of enzymes. The metabolites will be decomposed to the maximum extent, that is, the pH of the meat will be altered. During the process of acid excretion, the nuclear protein adenosine triphosphate is decomposed to produce phosphoric acid and hypoxanthine, which increases the flavor of the meat. Myosin in the protein produces glutamate under the influence of enzymes. You always know about glutamate, right, Mr. Lu? Message, Lu Ligan asked. Gu Gong nodded and said. There is another way of saying that the acidification of beef is called maturation, and maturation is an indispensable technical means for front-end processing of steaks. Maturation is divided into dry aging and wet aging. This is a long story. The best steaks are all dry-aged. For the same piece of Angus steak, to put it simply, the wet-aged steak is better than the dry-aged steak. Raw-cut steaks are more expensive, and dry-aged steaks are more expensive than wet-aged steaks, and not a little bit more expensive. It's a long story, so tell me. Anyway, it's okay to sit here. Just treat it as a popular science, Lu Ligan urged. Tell me, I don't understand this either. I really want to hear it. Lao Chi also followed suit. Thank you, book friend 202103011041484666278 and 2 fishes for the reward. Thank you, book friend 202103011041484666278. No time to think, on the road, every day, breathe slowly. 365, Lao Chen Tang, Zizhe monthly pass. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2254. Gu Gong looked at his watch. He put the beef in the refrigerator to drain the acid. Only 20 minutes had passed. There was indeed plenty of time. He took a sip of tea and began to talk slowly. Gu Gong said, steaks seem to be various, but in fact there are only 3 types. One is original cut steak, one is non-original cut steak, and the other is mature steak. Original cut steak is very common. We see it in supermarkets. Here, You can also eat raw steaks at most steakhouses. The original cut steak is beef. Oh, let me explain again. Not all the meat from the cow can be used to make steak. The meat that can be removed to make steak is only three parts, which are the back of the beef, the front and rear parts of the beef loin. The ribeye is in front of the loin, and the sirloin is in the back. It is also called sirloin and New Yorker. The ribeye and sirloin are connected together, but they are the front and rear sections. Below the sirloin is fillet. Fillet is a long strip from thick to thin like a tadpole's tail. It's the piece you bought earlier. You will know when you pick it up and take a look. Lao Chi is right, the whole strip is the shape of fillet is very similar to cucumber strips, which is easy to mistake. Fillet is the most tender piece of meat on the cow, so it is suitable for frying. Going back to the original cut steak, the original cut steak is to deacidify the meat from these three parts first, then freeze it, and then cut it after freezing. The shape of the cut steak will be better. The original cut steak is divided into two parts. One is marinating, the other is not marinating. There is no marinating and no pre-processing. The pre-processing of steak basically refers to aging, which will be discussed later. Steaks that are not marinated leave room for the chef to cook in the future. He can make it into various flavors according to the requirements of the guests, so most steakhouses will purchase this kind of raw, unmarinated steak. There is also a kind of raw cut steak that you often see in supermarkets. It is marinated with soy sauce, black pepper juice, vegetable juice, etc. This kind of steak is especially suitable for frying and eating in ordinary families. It does not need to be fried. Why don't you season it yourself? Most people buy steak in the supermarket. Non-raw steak is also called seasoned steak. It's just like negative growth. It just sounds nice. In fact, the key is the first word. The first word completely reverses the meaning of the latter. Negative growth is not growth, but actually a decline. Non-raw steak, in fact, it is not a steak, but a fake steak. There are two main methods of counterfeiting, one is fat injection, and the other is splicing. Fat injection means, don't you all like snowflake steak and frosty steak? They inject fat into raw cut steaks, even steaks made from shoulder blades, cucumber strips, etc. to create fine fat patterns that will make you mistakenly thought it was snowflake steak. The frost is so beautiful. In fact, if you look closely, you can see that the oily texture is very unnatural. There is another even worse method, which is splicing. Even though splicing sounds nice, it actually means taking various parts of ground beef and using adhesives such as edible glue to make it into the shape of a steak. In supermarkets, there is no label indicating the original cut. Those steaks that are very cheap are all non-original cut steaks. Don't buy them. If you do, you will be fooled. In fact, what you buy is just a beef patty, not a steak at all. Okay, Gugong, once you say this, we will know better and won't be fooled. Bao Tianbin said. Ahua also nodded. He said. I said that when I went to the supermarket, I saw some steaks that looked thicker than other steaks. The price was still cheaper, which made people think it was a good deal. It turned out that they were the beef patties that Gugong said. Gugong smiled and continued. Let's talk about aged steak. As I said before, aging is a pre-treatment method for steak. It is also divided into two types, one is dry aging, and the other is wet aging. The aging process itself is also acid removal. The process, because of its temperature requirements, is also around 0 degrees. Wet aging means cutting fresh steaks, sealing them in vacuum packaging bags, and then placing them in an environment around 0 degrees Celsius to mature them using the beef's own natural enzymes to achieve tenderness and juiciness. The advantage of wet aging is that there is less loss of ingredients and the production time is short generally. You can see a good aging effect in a few days. If the time is too long, more than 6 or 7 days, the steak will deteriorate and rot. We go to a steakhouse now, and if he claims to sell aged steaks, he usually uses the wet aging method. The wet aging process is too simple and is almost like a scam. It's like a gimmick used by businesses to deceive consumers. Some people, they even criticized that all raw-cut steaks are wet-aged steaks. Wet-aged steaks are just a false statement. Why do you say that? Because all steaks are transported in the cold chain. Isn't the transportation process itself wet aging? In fact, there is a difference. The difference is that there is no freezing process in the middle. If it is frozen, the meat quality will completely change. No more, the tender and juicy texture of wet-aged meat is gone. The highest level of steak pre-processing is also the top method. You can even try out the skill, which is dry aging. You may understand what dry aging is when I say it this way. It's like making ham. There is no difference. With salt. Dry aging originated from hunters in the United States and Canada. After they captured bison, they couldn't finish the meat, so they had to dry the meat in a natural environment. Because the local climate is dry and cold, the beef will not spoil. It was found that the beef tastes better after air drying, just like we eat air-dried meat. This method has been passed down. Dry aging is time-consuming and labor-intensive. It usually takes more than a month or even a year to complete. Now it is usually completed in a special refrigerated aging room. The refrigerated aging room has very high requirements, such as constant temperature, constant humidity, and airflow. There should also be an ultraviolet sterilizer in the cold room. You cannot use frozen beef for dry-aged steaks, because the fibrous tissue of frozen meat has been destroyed and there is no way to mature it. You can only use fresh whole pieces of beef, and then cut them into pieces after aging. Put large pieces of beef on the shelf, keep the temperature at 0 to 4 degrees, the humidity at 50–80%, and the air circulation at 0.5–2 m/s. During these long months, temperature, humidity, and air circulation depend on people to observe the changes in meat quality and make fine adjustments. Therefore, dry aging is very similar to winemaking. The level of craftsmanship determines the quality of the finished product. The same way Gyoza or Angus beef, matured by different craftsmen, will be very different, and the price will be several times different. Therefore, when dry-aged, people pay more attention to its brand or reputation. The top-notch steakhouses have their own aging rooms, and every piece of aged steak is made under the strict supervision of the chefs, with their own preferences and imprints. Dry-aged beef's outer layer and epidermal fat are air-dried due to evaporation of water, which helps to lock in the internal moisture and maintain the texture of fresh meat inside. The meat texture becomes firmer, and relatively speaking, the oiliness is also thicker concentrated. Dry-aged beef will be sweeter and have a special nutty aroma. Like aged ham, when we want to eat it, we will definitely trim the ham with a knife to remove the oxide layer on the outside. Dry-aged beef will also have a shell on the outside, and this shell needs to be removed. In this way, what you can get, probably only about 70% of the meat is edible. It takes so much time, effort, and ingredients, so even the most common dry-aged steak is not cheap. It's normal for a good dry-aged steak to cost more than 1,000 yuan for just such a small piece. After Gu Gong finished speaking, he looked at everyone and spread his hands, meaning, "Okay, I'm done. Do you still have any questions?" Lao Chi nodded and said, "Gu Gong, I have really seen this place. I have been a chef for decades. This is the first time I know so much. I have figured out the steak." Gu Gong smiled and said, "This is normal. You are a Chinese chef, not a Western chef. A Chinese chef doesn't have to understand steak, and there is no need to understand it. If a Western chef can't even fry steak, it's the same as a Chinese chef who can't. It's the same as stir-frying green vegetables, they just need to understand." Lao Chi smiled, thought for a moment, and said, "You still need to understand. From what you said, it seems that the beef here is cooked and people don't know how to eat beef. It really doesn't matter, Gu Gong said, the shrimp has its own path, and the crab has its own path. Food is for people to eat. No matter how it is made, as long as people eat it happily, it will be fine. If the people who come here, he feels that beef that is dynamic and dynamic is the freshest. He has this preconceived idea when eating it, and he will be very happy when eating it, and that's okay. Many things are just a way of saying. Just like us, we can still have a good time eating at a fly and mosquito restaurant on the street and find it delicious. So don't ask yourself to go to a 5-star hotel for every meal. Those things, just know it after trying it, it may not be suitable for our stomachs. Gu Gong, what you said makes sense, Lu Ligan shouted. Originally, Gu Gong said, Westerners use beef to make steaks, which is why steaks are so particular. We Chinese have been eating beef for thousands of years. We never make steaks, and the beef is not delicious. Now, we can fry it or braise it, it's just as delicious. As he spoke, Gu Gong turned his head and looked outside. He looked at the row of beef stalls opposite, sighed and said, Pity. What's wrong? Lao Chi asked. In fact, yellow cattle are not suitable for beef cattle, Gu Gong said. I don't mean that its meat quality is not good enough. The meat quality of yellow cattle has its own unique flavor. Like I said, even if you take Wagyu meat, if you come to speculate, you can't compare to scalpers. The biggest disadvantage of the scalper is that it is too small. It has always been used as a working cow, that is, a working cow, so we say that if a person works hard alone, it is called an old scalper. It is precisely because it has always been a working cow, so its meat is so firm and is most suitable for stir-fry. But if you treat it as a beef cattle, it is not cost-effective. The famous beef cattle in the world are nothing more than Wagyu, Angus, quinine, and Charlotte cattle. Their physiques are very different. Tall and tall, weighing more than 1,000 or 2,000 kilograms. There are very few scalpers who can weigh 1,000 kilograms. The calves we have in Xianggu generally only weigh 600 to 700 pounds, Lao Chi said. Gu Gong nodded, so I said it's a pity. Think about it, with the same feeding cycle and the same feed, the final meat yield will be almost half. Isn't it a pity? Mr. Zhang, your breeding farm, I think the first step, as long as we can breed Xianggu oxen with the same meat quality but tall body, it will be a small achievement. Thank you for the rewards from Dal Tin Soldier, Brokeback Mountain, and 2 fishes. Thank you Tin Soldier, Zonda RR, Mid-Autumn Moon, Humorous Tribe, Lemon Stone Spring Hodgepodge, Gookwol, No Future, Only Remember the Original Intention, Captain Jim, Zliang, Xiao Shen Nian Fang 48, LW. Norvi, Sand Mood, Tamagotchi, Dong Long Dong, Monthly Ticket for the Fish Eating Guy. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2255. Gu Gong looked at his watch, stood up, and said to Zhang Xiangbei, it's almost done. Do you want to go and have a look? I have something good to show you. When he said this, everyone followed him to see what good things he was talking about. Gu Gong took out several pieces of beef from the refrigerator and gave the ribeye that was going to be used in the hot pot directly to the chef and asked him to slice it. He picked up the piece of fillet himself. Lu Ligan shouted, show me, look. Gu Gong spread the whole fillet on the chopping board. Lu Ligan saw that the piece of meat really looked like a tadpole's tail, from thick to thin. Looking at this piece of meat again, the meat was tender, and the whole piece was maroon red. Of lean meat. After listening to what Gu Gong said just now, when everyone looked at it again, they felt that they had also seen some clues. Gu Gong picked up the knife and said to Zhang Xiangbei, just watch. Gu Gong slashed the knife, and Zhang Xiangbei was shocked. He saw that the middle of this piece of fillet was actually densely covered with fine fat, which was snowflakes. Zhang Xiangbei asked. How is that possible? There are still oil flowers here. Gu Gong smiled and put 2 points on the beef with his fingers, and said to Zhang Xiangbei, from here to here, there is only this little bit. Even a 2,000 kilogram Angus cow only has less than 1 kilogram of this kind of meat. What's this called? Lu Ligan asked. Chateaubriand. Gu Gong said, it is in the center of the fillet. This piece of meat is called Chateaubriand. It is also a method of grilling steak. The French like to cook this piece of steak. Don't cut it into pieces, bake it whole over slow fire, and then cut it into thick slices. Mr. Lu, you should know the name Chateaubriand, right? I have some impression, but I can't remember it. Lu Ligan said, it seems to be someone's name in France, right? Yes, the French writers and politicians of the 18th and 19th centuries were certainly not as famous as Hugo and Balzac. However, because he especially liked to eat this fillet, he cooked it slowly over low heat. Roasted, so the French call this recipe and this piece of beef Chateaubriand. Gu Gong said with a smile, this is the best beef. Yes, a writer is not famous for his writing, but he is famous for eating embryos. Lu Ligan said. If I were now, I would be an internet celebrity, Zhang Chen said. Gu Gong picked up the piece of Chateaubriand, looked at it, and asked Lao Chi, are all the cattle here eating grass? How do you know? Lao Chi asked. There is a difference between grain-fed and grass-fed. If the cow has eaten grain feed for a month, the oil will be richer and the cow will be much stronger. As he spoke, Gu Gong cut the piece of Chateaubriand into slices, put another plate on it, and put the other fillets on another plate. Gu Gong looked at the spice jars and dipped his fingers into the jar. Tried the secret sauce and assorted sauce, he said both sauces were good. But he didn't add it to the beef. Looking at the jar of 13 fragrances again, Gu Gong laughed and said softly, how bold and bold, eating the beef as crayfish. As he said that, he only added a little black pepper to Chateaubriand and the plate of fillet, and picked it twice with his hands. Even if it was marinated, he said. The most taboo thing is to over-marinate before grilling. In that case, the tenderness of the meat will be lost. It is equivalent to going to the supermarket and buying a marinated filet mignon. This must be fried before being cooked again. You don't need too much sauce to eat it, just have this and this. He was referring to Haitian soy sauce and Xiaokingju. Zhang Xiangbei remembered that he was in Hotanjin, where the ingredients were not pickled in advance. Gu Gong divided the piece of beef that was going to be fried into 2 halves, shredding half and slicing half. Then he took a white radish, a green onion and a few millet peppers. Cut pepper into rings. After everything was cut, the consultant asked Lao Chi, you or me? Lao Chi said, you come, I will study here today. Gu Gong was not polite and started cooking. His fat body became particularly agile as soon as he stood in front of the stove. Even Lao Chi didn't believe it and asked Zhang Xiangbei if Gu Gong was a chef. Bar. No, he has a background in digging ancient tombs. Zhang Xiangbei said that Lao Chi didn't believe it and suspected that Zhang Xiangbei was teasing him. Zhang Xiangbei said. Really, he has a master's degree in history from Fudan University, not from Lanciang. Everyone sat down to eat. Gu Gong told everyone that the beef should not be fried for too long, medium rare is enough. Hey, medium rare, isn't that similar to raw meat? Xiang Nan said. Gu Gong smiled and said, you are right to listen to me. Don't worry, this beef can be eaten raw. As Gu Gong said this, he simply stood up, took the plate of Chateaubriand in front of him, and said, I'll fry it for you, and you're responsible for eating it. He used long chopsticks to pick up the food piece by piece, fry it, and distribute it to everyone with quick hands and feet. Everyone said it was delicious. Lao Chi called the boss over and asked him to try the plate of stir-fried shredded beef with shredded radish and stir-fried beef with green onions that Gu Gong had fried. The boss didn't like spicy food, so he ate it very hard, but he still nodded and said, "Delicious." "If you don't know how to speculate, let Master Gu teach you," Lao Chi said. Gu Gong quickly waved his hand and said, "It's not troublesome as usual. If the customer doesn't think it tastes good, he can only blame himself for not buying the meat well. If it's cooking, it's too troublesome and it's difficult for everyone to agree. It's not like you can control the heat of the stir-fry at once. Stir-fry beef only takes a few seconds. The beef is tender. If you continue to stir-fry it, it will get older and harder to bite," Zhang Chen said. The boss laughed and nodded repeatedly. Lao Chi scolded the boss, "You are just lazy. When you have money to make, you just sit on it. When you don't make money, you just cry." The next morning, Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan went down to the restaurant on the first floor to have breakfast. They saw Gu Gong sitting there alone. Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan were not there. The two of them took breakfast and went to sit across from him. Zhang Xiangbei asked the consultant, "Why are you alone? Where are my dad and the others?" "Your father and Mr. Lu left with Lao Bao early in the morning," Gu Gong said. "Where to go?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "Li Village, it seems to be over in Danzhou. Your father said that the buildings in your ranch should be designed as an improved version of Li Village. They can't make any Western buildings because they don't match the environment. They went to shoot the materials," Gu Gong said. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan looked at each other, and both of them laughed. Last night, Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan talked about their feelings at the Rocco Mountain Ranch in Kobe. He was also worried about whether he would change here too. A replica of New Zealand. Unexpectedly, there is still a connection between father and son on this point. What he thought of has been rejected by his father. If it is his ranch, an improved version of Li Village will appear in the future. Zhang Xiangbei feels that he is quite looking forward to it. "Your dad is better than you, right?" Xiang Nan said. "You only know what you shouldn't have, and he knows what should be there. I told you this a long time ago, so you can rest assured." Zhang Xiangbei chuckled, "Well, it makes sense to have him first and then me." They were already late when they came to have breakfast. They were the last few people. The restaurant in this hotel is multifunctional. It is a restaurant in the morning, a tea house and a coffee shop during the day, and a buffet restaurant in the evening. While they were still eating, the other side was cleared away and rearranged to look like a lobby bar. After breakfast, Xiangnan went to Wanghai International next door. Zhang Xiangbei and Gu Gong moved their seats and went to the other side to drink tea. Zhang Xiangbei remembered a question he left yesterday and asked the consultant, "Do you know about Matsusaka beef?" "I know, I've eaten there," Gu Gong said. After eating, "Where are you going?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "Me and Kobe, Matsusaka beef and Kobe Wagyu are so famous. It must have been 4 years ago. I took my wife and son to Japan to eat. At that time, it was not possible to eat Japanese beef in China," Gu Gong explained. Zhang Xiangbei laughed. "Is it Hishinjin?" "Yes, the first meal is Weidakan. At noon, the meal in the evening is not. There is another very small steakhouse, not famous. The price is only half of Weidakan, but the beef is not worse than Weidakan. I don't know if it is a psychological effect. Dinner after eating it, I felt like I was cheated on my lunch meal." Gu Gong said that Zhang Xiangbei laughed loudly. He had never been to other stores and had no comparison. "It is said that Matsuzaka beef is better than Kobe Wagyu beef, but I don't think so," Gu Gong said. "We went to Kobe the next day, and after eating Kobe Wagyu beef, I think Kobe Wagyu beef tastes better. Yang Gaifei beef is well deserved." "Yang Gaifei is awesome, what the hell?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "Kobe Wagyu beef, or Yang Gaifei beef, is just like me. It's fat and full of fat. Without so much fat, how could there be so much frost?" Zhang Xiangbei couldn't stop laughing. He was right. When you said that, it was really vivid. The Weijio cattle I saw were all with a figure like yours. By the way, it was indeed concubine Yang. She had raised Weijio cattle. Tell me, they serve Weijio cattle. They will cater to the cattle as they like. Isn't that the same as serving Yang Gaifei? There is a company in Dalian. The beef they raise from Swilong black cattle and Swilong Suihua fat cattle is always at a high level. It sells for more than 2,000 yuan per pound. It is the most expensive beef sold in China. Mr. Zhang, do you know? No. Consultant asked. Zhang Xiangbei shook his head. Gu Gong said, I have dealt with them. The boss originally made hay and exported it to Japan. I suspect that his cattle borrowed seeds from Kobe Weijio. Although the boss himself does not admit it, Kobe Weijio and live cattle cannot be export, but the semen is exported, and the Luxi young cattle are the beneficiaries. After the improvement, the meat quality has increased a lot. Zhang Xiangbei nodded. I'm going to see what you said. I will accompany you then. However, starting from this year, they may be under greater pressure and prices will come down, Gu Gong said. Why? Zhang Xiangbei asked. They used to take the high-end route and took over our country to some extent. At that time, because of mad cow disease and foot and mouth disease, they could not import Japanese Weijio beef. The cheap price attracted a large number of high-end users. Starting this year, the import of Japanese Weijio beef has resumed, and the competition has become fierce. Consumers choose if there are more. I guess the price will come down. Thank you for your monthly votes for UN 11, Dao Duweng, and Feng Konghu 1974. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2256. When Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan came back, it was already dark outside. Zhang Xiangbei and Gu Gong were still in the hotel. When they came back, they had dinner together. Zhang Xiangbei didn't ask where his father was or how he was. Dad didn't say anything to him. The two of them didn't even mention the farm again, but Zhang Xiangbei knew that his father went to Li village today. Maybe he would have an idea on the way back and know what to do. When his renderings came out, only his father would show it to him. Zhang Chen asked Bao Tianben if there was any place to eat mutton in Haikan. Is there any place in Dongmen Market? After leaving Haikan, Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan also went to Sanya many times and came to Haikan very rarely. Haikan already felt a little strange, and all they were familiar with were memories. Yes, on Wenming Middle Road, behind the garbage dump, Bao Tianben said. Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan's eyes lit up. Zhang Chen asked, is it open air? Open air, Bao Tianben scratched his head and said, it seems that there is no place to eat mutton that is open air. It turns out there was one next to Mingguanghua. I remember it was open air, but it is gone now. Tell me, where is the best place to eat mutton hotpot? The one where most locals go, Zhang Chen asked. There is a restaurant on Hongqinjia Road, and many locals from Hainan go there, Bao Tianben said. Let's go to this restaurant to eat, Lu Ligan said. This store is not on Hongcheng Lake Road, but on a newly opened branch road of Hongcheng Lake Road. There is no road sign yet. At the end of the road is a construction site. This road is not open yet. The hotel is in a 2-story iron house, which looks like a temporary building, but Bao Tianben told them that this store has been open for many years, and he had eaten here 3 or 4 years ago, but at that time, there is still a dirt road in front of the door, and there are vegetable fields behind and around it. Now, the vegetable patch can no longer be seen next to this shop. To its left and right, there are 3 or 4 mutton shops that are also made of iron sheets. However, in front of this shop, there are cars and cars parked. Motorcycles and electric vehicles are the most common. Across the road is a new community that has not been moved in yet. In the bright light at the entrance of the store, there was a circle of people playing cards. Lao Bao told them that these people were waiting here to serve as chauffeurs. From the open door of the store, there was air conditioning, and from the hanging plastic curtain. It blows out of the cracks, and the area at the door is not hot at all. Bao Tianbin led them in. The decoration inside was very simple. The floor was paved with tiles. He was worried that it would be too slippery. The floor tiles in the main passage were covered with a blackened red carpet. Every table inside was eating hot pot. It was very hot inside, but the air conditioner was on full blast. In the two-story shop, more than 20 tables on the first floor were already occupied, so they could only go to the second floor. The stairs to the second floor are made of I-beam and angle iron welded with wooden boards. When walking on the stairs, it feels like the whole house is shaking with it. From the first and second floors, everyone was talking in Hainan. Zhang Chen and Lu Ligan couldn't help laughing. This is certainly not the store under the Wenming Dongda tree back then, but the taste is right and the temperament is similar. If you see a splendidly decorated hotel, even the baseboards have been wiped spotless, it is definitely not owned by Hainan, nor is Hainan willing to come here. For many Hainan, even their homes look like they were improvised. A dining table may be paired with 3 or 4 kinds of chairs and stools. The dishes on the table are served with both porcelain plates and stainless steel bowls and basins. Without a complete set of tableware, everything seems to be temporary, as long as it can be used, but once it is put together, it can last for a long time, and it can be temporary for many years. The floor slab on the second floor is not cast in place, but also made of steel frame, covered with wooden boards, and it creaks as you walk over it. Everyone sat down around a round table. The table was shorter than an ordinary table, not much higher than a plastic stool. When sitting, my thighs could not be placed under the table, so I had to sit with my thighs apart. The round table is a wooden table painted with tung oil. It has been used for a long time, and the tabletop is greasy and black. Bao Tianbin said apologetically to Zhang Chen. "Mr. Zhang, is this place too shabby?" Zhang Chen smiled and said nothing. What he was thinking in his heart was that if this place wasn't like this, I wouldn't want to come here. However, Zhang Chen still looked at Xiang Nan. Among the people at the table, Xiang Nan should be the one who minded the most. Fortunately, after she sat down, she kept looking calm. She just took out 2 pieces of paper and helped Zhang first wipe the table in front of Xiang Bei, and then wipe the table in front of himself. Zhang Chen couldn't help but nodded secretly. This is the benefit of people who come from the troupe. After running around the pier a lot, they have seen everything in the world, and they are no longer surprised, and all the squeamishness is gone. This aspect, to Nan, looks very much like Tan Shahan when she was young. In the middle of the table, there is a single head gas stove. The gas stove has a long handle extending out, a valve for igniting and adjusting the size of the flame. On this long handle, a cylinder is made of tin plate around the gas stove, so that the casserole sits on the gas stove for a while. The gas stove is lit and there is no open flame. 2 middle-aged women brought over a stainless steel basin, a stainless steel teapot, and a rectangular plastic basket. In the basket were the tableware for their table. After putting it down, one of them left, and the other asked, "Which order is better?" Bao Tianbin talked about him, and then the two started chattering in Hainan dialect. Xiang Nan used the hot water in the teapot to wash their tableware in the stainless steel basin and distributed it to everyone one by one. The woman who left in front came up with a tray. In the tray was mixed sauce in a stainless steel jar, minced garlic in the other jar, a bottle of Haitian soy sauce, a bottle of Jiangking's chili sauce, and a bowl of xiaoqing orange, a bowl of minced coriander. Everyone started to season the meat, but Gu Gong sat there without moving. He said he wanted to see what kind of meat was served before starting to season it. A young man came up with a casserole, sat the casserole on the gas stove, and lit the gas stove. At this time, everyone realized the rationality of the height of the table. The height of the table made it possible to place a gas stove on the table. Another casserole sat on the gas stove. The casserole was still under their sight, making it easy to operate later. There was boiling water in the casserole, and the clear soup was filled with wolfberry and angelica, and it boiled in a short while. Two women, one holding a large stainless steel basket in each hand, put it down. One plate was white-cut wenchang chicken, and the other was white-cut mutton. The other one was holding a plastic basket of vegetables, including lettuce, spinach, and green vegetables. Yes, there is also a pot of braised mutton in a stainless steel pot. Bao Tianben asked everyone to eat first. The 2 portions of mutton and chicken were finished products and could be eaten directly. The white-cut mutton is skin on. Gu Gong poured a little soy sauce into his small bowl, dipped a piece of mutton in the soy sauce and tasted it. The mutton had no smell at all. The mutton was already crispy and very delicious, especially the sheep skin is a little crispy and a little tough. It doesn't taste as soft and smooth as pig's trotters, but like thickened fish skin. This mutton is good. It's different from mutton from the northwest and hu mutton, Gu Gong said. What is sold here is Hainan's local donggode, Bao Tianben said. Try this braised mutton again. Gu Gong took a piece and tasted it, nodding his head repeatedly. Next came 2 large pots of 5-spice mutton, which were used for hot pot. The mutton was half rare and had been marinated. It was sprinkled with a layer of 5-spice powder and scallions. Bao Tianben picked up 1 pot first. Pour the whole thing into the casserole and cover the pot. The dishes continued to be served, and then came a pot of haggis, yuba, radish, etc. These were used to continue making hot pot after the mutton was finished. Zhang Chen asked, "Are there any duck intestines?" "What duck intestines?" Bao Tianben asked. "It's the kind of marinated duck intestines," Zhang Chen said, and Bao Tianben shook his head. Lu Ligan burst into laughter. He looked at Zhang Chen and asked, "Are you eating yuca rice?" Zhang Chen choked back, "Aren't you?" The 2 of them laughed. The other people didn't know what they were laughing about or what yukifan was about, so the 2 of them didn't say much. The casserole was opened, and the mutton in the pot was already delicious. Everyone started eating. The mutton was tender and fresh. After a while, they finished the casserole, and Bao Tianben poured it into the second pot. Zhang Xiangbei didn't say anything, and Zhang Chen didn't ask. After eating mutton and drinking wine, Lu Ligan began to ask Zhang Xiangbei what his plans were. Zhang Xiangbei told him that he planned to start a ranch here, and also wanted to open beef shops in Haikan, Hangchang, and Shanghai. The beef shops would not only sell beef raised by himself, but also the best beef from all over the world. Let customers have a free choice. They can choose Kobe Wagyu beef, Australian fattened beef, or our own cattle. That's the second step. You need to finish the ranch first. When the beef from your ranch can be put on the market, which will be a year and a half at the earliest, the hotel will be considered in the second step. Zhang Chen did not look at Zhang Xiangbei, but he said the words to Zhang Xiangbei. If you really want to open a hotel, remember, the hotel house must be your own. The biggest expense of the hotel, besides labor wages, is the rent. Hotels change too much and are greatly affected by external factors. The hotel house belongs to you. Yes, the cost pressure is not that great, and the hotel management staff will not be under such great pressure. If the pressure is too great, the tricks and movements will be deformed. Hotels are most afraid of this. Opening a hotel is all about steady flow. If you want to make quick money through it, if you can't make it, you must have a good mentality. By the way, you can look for houses in Haikan and Shanghai early and buy them when you find them. In Hangchang, in another year, the house of the original half-acre field store on Jifang Road will also expire. Here you go, that place is suitable for opening a hotel, and your beef restaurant has such a big store. Zhang Xiangbei nodded. He was not facing Jiang Chen, but was responding to him. The next day, Jiang Chen, Lu Ligan, Gu Gong, Zhang Xiangbei, and Xiangnan were all preparing to go back to Hangzhou. Before leaving, Jiang Chen called Bao Tianbin over, and Bao Tianbin entered Jiang Chen's room. Jiang Chen looked at him and told him, "Call him, and ask Mr. Jiang to come over too." Bao Tianbin laughed, and Jiang Chen was stunned for a moment. He didn't know what Bao Tianbin was laughing about, but then he understood and he laughed too, feeling a little embarrassed. Bao Tianbin called Zhang Xiangbei's room and asked him to come over. Zhang Xiangbei came over and the three of them sat down on the sofa. Jiang Chen took out a stack of paper and held a pencil in his hand. While drawing, he talked to Bao Tianbin and Zhang Xiangbei. With a few strokes, he drew the entire terrain there, and then told them that there was no need to make any changes in other places. On the slopes on both sides, the tea trees were removed and replanted with pasture. The key points needed to be changed. The area is on both sides of the stream and the location of the original tea factory. Jiang Chen and Bao Tianbin said, "We will wait for my renderings of the specific plan to come out, and then let the Design Institute come over to do it. I will tell you a rough layout first, so that you will have a good idea. During this period, it will be smoothed out. Know what to do?" Bao Tianbin nodded. "The most important thing is the stream. Don't destroy the original stream beach. Don't build stone blocks or anything like that. Just go to the local area and ask the villagers to find out. When the stream rose to its highest level in previous years, where did it rise? When doing construction, just move back 2 or 3 meters. The original creek beach is very beautiful, so don't destroy it." Jiang Chen drew on the paper, first drawing the location of the tea factory, and told them that the offices, research institutes, slaughtering workshops, underground maturation workshops, etc. would be placed here, and a dormitory could also be built. "This place is enough. Here, on this side of the stream, are used to build 2 rows of cows' heads, right on the edge of the stream." Jiang Chen drew the appearance of the cowshed. "Yes, it's a water view room," Bao Tianbin said. Jiang Chen smiled and said, "That's right, a water view room, but you have to drain it well so it doesn't flow into the stream." Bao Tianbin said yes. Jiang Chen drew casually and drew a winding road on the other side of the stream, stretching along the stream into the valley. He said to Bao Tianbin, "Here, I plan to build a group of Li-style buildings. This is the tourist reception center. They can live here and eat here." Bao Tianbin looked at it, a little confused, and asked, "Mr. Zhang, why should the tourist reception center be placed inside? Wouldn't it be more reasonable to place it outside? When tourists arrive, they can enter as soon as they get off the car." Jiang Chen nodded and said, "You are right. It would be more reasonable to build the cowshed outside instead of building it inside. But there are 2 points we must pay attention to." "What 2 points?" Bao Tianbin asked. "First, the lighting inside is not good. I also want to make a glass skylight above the cowshed, so that even if the cows are in the cowshed, they will have enough light every day. On the contrary, people like to stay in a dark place because of the hot weather in Hainan. The place, I prefer to be in the valley." Jiang Chen said. Bao Tianbin and Zhang Xiangbei nodded. Jiang Chen said, "And the most important thing is that there is a steakhouse in the visitor center, and steakhouses usually get busy in the evening. Don't you think it's too cruel to let the cows smell the fragrance of beef every day? Are you afraid that they will smell it for a long time? Suffering from depression?" Bao Tianbin and Zhang Xiangbei both laughed, and Zhang Xiangbei said, "Then they can't smell it here." "Do you know what valley wind is?" Jiang Chen said. "In a valley like this, during the day, the wind blows from the valley to the outside. It is called valley wind because the temperature outside is high. In the evening, because the heat dissipates quickly outside, the wind blows from the outside inward, which is the mountain breeze, so in the evening, the cows outside cannot smell the smell inside. Awesome, Bao Tianben shouted. Zhang Xiangbei was also puzzled and couldn't help but ask, how do you know this? Zhang Chen said, why do you think the designer has to go to the site to see it? He just wants to take everything into consideration at the site. Otherwise, I don't even have to come here. I can just take your photos and floor plans. When Zhang Chen was talking, he thought of the Canadian Jacques. As a designer, he could even touch the soul of a place. He would bring a sleeping bag and sleep there at night. Thank you for the reward of 2 fishes. Thank you for your monthly votes on the road, Tian Tian, hoo, forgot your password, Zongkai 727, 4 + 1 = 5, Zipanjiang 1, Civilized Reading, Void and Broken Dreams, Dora Eamon, Book Friends 0906241115120009. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2257. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan returned to Hangzhou. Xiangnan was still worried about the preparations for the Yongcheng International Street Theater Festival and planned to go to Yongcheng the next day. Zhang Xiangbei also followed. Xiangnan asked Zhang Xiangbei, you don't have to worry about your own business anymore. Zhang Xiangbei said, my dad's plan hasn't come out yet. My main job is to collect information online, and to contact my classmates and friends around the world to ask them to help me collect information about their local beef cattle breeding situation to see if there are any good breeding cattle. Also, during the drama festival, Miki Yataguchi and Mr. Kazuo are coming, aren't they? I always have to receive them before running out. Xiangnan nodded. In fact, what Zhang Xiangbei was thinking was that he would definitely be very busy in the coming days. He would not only have to travel around the country, but also go abroad. He had already contacted Lao Qiao, and Lao Qiao had convinced his father and agreed to Zhang Xiangbei's decision. I went north to film their entire process of raising Tajima cows, and even agreed to provide them with Tajima cow sperm. Lao Qiao said that our family has a relatively famous breeding cattle in the Tajima area. The descendants of this breeding cattle breed a high proportion of Kobe Wagyu beef. When Zhang Xiangbei went to Japan, he still had another task, which was to convince his sister to let her become his general agent in Japan. From now on, the job of purchasing Kobe Wagyu beef would be left to her. Zhang Xiangbei understood that once he started to get busy, he might not have much time to come back, so he took advantage of the early period, when there was nothing to do, to spend time with Xiangnan. Dinner at home in the evening, the 2 land reclamation warriors immediately became excited when they heard that Zhang Xiangbei had bought a piece of mountain land in Hainan to raise cattle. More than 5,000 acres of tea trees would be plowed down and replanted into pasture. Lao Zhang and Zhang Xiangbei said, Bei, let's go with you. We are capable of cutting down trees and planting grass. There are 5,000 acres of mountain land. The 2 of us can help you plant 1,000 acres. Zhang Xiangbei was embarrassed and speechless. Zhang Chen quickly said, if you go, Zhang Xiangbei will still take care of you. He goes to start a business, not to play. Did we go there to play? Lao Zhang glared at Zhang Chen and said unconvinced, we are here, do you need to take care of us? If we go to Hainan, do we need someone to take care of us? It's not like I don't have anything to do when I work in Hainan. Did it? This is about helping Cao Minfang run a nursery in Sanya. Zhang Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, wherever you go, even Zhang Xiangbei doesn't dare to take care of you, and the people below him don't even dare to take care of you. Do you think our decades of work have been in vain? We still need others to take care of our work. We can barely take care of our own grandson's pasture, so why do we still need others to take care of us? Lao Zhang choked. Zhang Chen said with a smile, if you manage others, that would be more terrifying than being managed by others. What a company is most afraid of is the boss's relatives gesticulating in the company and leaving others at a loss. Otherwise, I would have arranged for you to go there. My company has started work, do I still have to wait until now? Family has its own rules, and the company has its own company rules. The most fearful thing is to bring the rules from home to the company. The company runs according to rules, not personal preferences and distance, do you know? Where were you when I was at work? Lao Zhang yelled, you didn't even have a hair at that time, and now you want to teach me a lesson. I don't know what it's like in the workplace. My decades of work experience are like falling from the sky of. Okay, let me ask you, let me give you the smallest example. Zhang Chen said, if you were in the company and saw a broom falling to the ground, would you help it up? Of course, Lao Zhang said. Do you want others to educate others? Zhang Chen said with a smile, but basically at this time, do you tell the people around you that when they see the broom falling over, they will also pick it up, help me up? Is there anything wrong with this? Lao Zhang asked. It's a big mistake, Zhang Chen said. In the company, every place and everyone is managed by someone. Everyone has their own responsibilities. You are not a sanitation person. You are not responsible for the broom. No matter what, it didn't fall down. The person doing the cleaning work was also in charge of it. The responsibility of the person in charge was to make him put the broom in a good place so that it wouldn't fall down. At this time, the two of you actually had a management conflict. One of you thinks that the broom cannot fall down. You think that if the broom falls, everyone can help it up when they see it. If you are just an ordinary person, you are like this. Having said that, the sanitation person will not listen to you. He will definitely listen to his supervisor. But you are the boss's grandfather. According to human nature, tell me, will the sanitation worker listen to you or the supervisor at this time? Who does he think is more powerful, you or the supervisor? According to human nature, of course. Lao Zhang was halfway through his words and couldn't continue, and everyone laughed. Zhang Chen said, you said you don't take care of yourself in the company. Let me tell you, this is impossible. If you don't take care of yourself, you wouldn't be you, and you wouldn't be Zhang Xiangbei's grandfather. Where would there be a grandfather? When you see a broom falling over, you don't even try to help it up. But with this small action, you disrupt the company's entire management system. If you take care of things that you shouldn't take care of, others will have no way to take care of them. The more relatives and the closer the relationship, the better you will be in the company. Take care of yourself, take care of big things as well as small things. This is human nature, and this is why relatives cannot be recruited into the company. Lao Zhang was speechless by Zhang Chen. He shook his head and murmured, no, that's not the case. You got me involved. Lao Zhang recalled what Zhang Chen said, and when he thought of it, he shouted. Isn't that right? I was confused by you. I saw the broom fell on the ground and I would help him up. But I didn't object. The broom shouldn't fall on the ground. I would also go and tell that person that the broom should be put down. Just keep it steady and don't let him fall down. Then you will have more control. Zhang Chen said, it is not ruled out that there are many people who know that you are the boss's grandfather and deliberately come to get close to you and say nice things to you to get close to you and make you think that he is after becoming your friend. He starts to make trouble in front of you, saying how about this, what about that, what will you do at this time? According to Lao Zhang's jealous personality, he will definitely jump up and stop things he thinks are wrong, Lu Ligan said from the side. But you are not a person who has experienced it. You don't know the rights and wrongs of the matter. You just listen to what others said. At this time, whether it is the supervisor or the manager, other people do not dare to talk to them. You must dare to go. Say it, because you are the boss's grandfather. Zhang Chen looked at Lao Zhang and continued. At this time, no matter whether the matter you are managing is right or wrong, you go to your supervisor or manager and say that this behavior is wrong in itself, and it will disrupt the company's management system. You are not the general manager. What do you have? The right to speak to them. Moreover, the more you do this, the more people will come to you and talk to you more, and a small group will be formed around you, compared to a small group outside the company's management system. What are you talking about? It makes me feel like I am going to Bai Bei's company to usurp the party and seize power. Lao Zhang glared at Zhang Chen fiercely and cursed. It's best not to go. Zhang Xiangbei doesn't need a supreme emperor. He's willing to make mistakes. Just make mistakes. What's the big deal? Just let him go and do it by himself. People learn in the process of doing it. Even if you make a mistake, you still spend money to buy a lesson, Zhang Chen said. Nonsense, what kind of emperor? I can't be your emperor, but can I be Bai Bei's emperor? I'm going to plant grass and raise cattle, not to take care of the elderly. Lao Zhang was really angry. I'm not going to your company. Don't worry, even if you use an 8-carat sedan to carry me, I won't go to your company. I'm going to Bai Bei's place. Bai Bei, tell me, do you welcome Grandpa and Grandpa? Zhang Chen and Lao Zhang were talking to each other, and no one else could get in the way. No matter it was Xiao Fang, Tan Shahen, or Xiang Nan, the three of them sat there without saying a word. The only thing they could do was the one who interrupted was Lu Ligan. Seeing that the matter had reached a showdown with Zhang Xiangbei, Lu Ligan felt serious and quickly said. Alas, alas, you have gone in the wrong direction, especially you, Lao Zhang, you have made a directional mistake, do you understand? Lao Zhang was stunned for a moment and asked. What direction? You can't ruin yourself like this. It's obviously gold, so you have to bury yourself in the sand, Lu Ligan said with a smile. What nonsense, Lao Zhang asked. Look at how simple it is to plant grass and raise cattle. Just find 2 migrant workers and they will do it. If you go and do this, isn't it burying talent and wasting talent? Isn't it burying gold in the sand? Ha ha. Or the gold was buried by himself, are you trying to lurk? Lu Ligan continued to laugh. Not only Lao Zhang and Xiaofang's father, but also Zhang Chen and Zhang Xiangbei were confused. Lao Zhang looked at Lu Ligan with confusion on his face. Uncle Zhang, have you forgotten that you and your uncle are leaders in the industry? Lu Ligan said, who can do better than you in making sand tables in Hangzhou? Making sand tables is a technical job, and not everyone can do it. Is it okay to just find 2 migrant workers here? It turns out that it's better for you to throw away your own skills and do things that even 100 migrant workers can't do, and go to compete for jobs with migrant workers. Are you embarrassed? Lu Ligan said. Everyone laughed. Tan Shahen and Xiaofang nodded in agreement. Tan Shahen said. Yes, uncle, if you go to Hainan, who will we find to make the sand table for our new project? There is another big thing, Lao Zhang, Lu Ligan said. What's the big deal? Lao Zhang asked. Did I tell you a few days ago that the director of the Municipal Planning Bureau saw the sand table you made at the Tuxianjiayuan Hotel and was greatly impressed? They want to invite you to make it at the City Exhibition Hall in Hangzhou. An identical model of Hangzhou. City Exhibition Hall, think about it, your works are all there. This is a matter of thousands of generations. In the future, even we are no longer here. When Bai Bei and their grandchildren go to the City Exhibition Hall, they can still see what their ancestors did. The sand table, tell me, is this a big event? How dare you, Lao Zhang, delay such a big event? Lao Zhang was stunned by what Lu Ligan said. He asked, when did you tell me about the City Exhibition Hall? That day, in your studio that day, I told you, ha ha ha, Lao Zhang, you didn't even hear this clearly. You were too selfless when you were working. Ask your uncle, "Uncle, if I have did you say that?" Lu Ligan asked Xiaofang's father. Xiaofang's father couldn't remember Lu Ligan saying this. However, seeing that Lu Ligan said it so seriously, it was possible that it was too noisy to hear clearly when he was working in the studio below, so he nodded. Lao Zhang said, "If the city exhibition hall needs us to help them make sand tables, Bei, then Grandpa really can't go to your place." Zhang Xiangbei made a sad face and looked regretful, but he was secretly relieved. What else did Zhang Chen want to say? He looked at Lu Ligan, who quickly blinked at him and told him to shut up. "Thank you for the rewards from that year. It was me, Brokeback Mountain, and 2 fishes. Thank you for your monthly votes for that year. It was me, Water and Youth, Yuzazialiu, Tishan, Jinwu Longji, Shachin Mood, On the Road to a Nation, and Dong Long Dong. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health." The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2258. After dinner, Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan took Zhang Xiangzi out to play. Zhang Chen stood up and winked at Lu Ligan. Lu Ligan understood and stood up. The two of them walked out and lit their cigarettes at the door. "Then we walked towards Meisi River." "What are you talking about the city exhibition hall?" Zhang Chen asked. "That's not nonsense. It's true that the planning director greatly admired the sand table when he saw it at the Tuxianjiayuan Hotel on the wedding day of Bei and Nan Nan. He really said that the sand table should not be placed here. It should be put in the city exhibition hall." Lu Ligan said, "Do you think I am so smart that I can make up such a seamless story at the last minute?" Zhang Chen rolled his eyes at him and asked, "What about asking Lao Zhang and the others to make a sand table?" "This is nonsense." Lu Ligan chuckled. "I knew it. Let's see how you deal with this matter. Lao Zhang is serious and will definitely keep an eye on you every day," Zhang Chen said. "Am I not helping Bei to get out of the siege? Otherwise, what would he do if the 2 land reclamation warriors really followed him to Hainan? He works as a nanny there every day. Does he still need to do anything?" Lu Ligan said. Zhang Chen snorted, "Do you think that when they find out that you are lying to them about this, they won't buy their own tickets and fly to Hainan? What a big deal, now that the fake show has been staged, we can make it real," Lu Ligan said in a relaxed tone. "How to sing?" Zhang Chen asked. The director said that the sand table should be placed in the city exhibition hall, which means that he also believes that the city exhibition hall needs this, but he did not continue to say it. It is because he knows that making such a large sand table requires a lot of money. This idiot is unwilling to spend money, so why can't we donate a city's sand table to them?" Lu Ligan looked at Zhang Chen and continued. "You don't have to worry about this matter. I'll handle it. It's very simple. It's said to be a donation of sandboxes, but in fact it's a donation of production and installation fees, so that the city exhibition hall can find 2 land reclamation warriors to make the sandboxes. The production fees will be borne by the city exhibition hall. Give it to them. As for the installation fee, it is just a pretext, and it actually belongs to the city exhibition hall. They got a sand table for free and a sum of money. Only a fool would do such a good thing. I will arrange it tomorrow." When Zhang Chen heard this, he felt relieved and couldn't help but laugh. The next afternoon, Lu Ligan walked into Zhang Chen's office and told him that things were arranged. I had already taken the curator of the city exhibition hall to inspect the sand table. He also believed that the production of the sand table was the level is very high and what they need. "Really?" Zhang Chen asked. "Of course, the curator was in my office just now. He had already called Lao Zhang and told him that he wanted to ask them to make a sand table for Hangzhou. He asked Lao Zhang and the others to take time out of their busy schedules and go to the museum to sign a copy. Commissioned production agreement," Lu Ligan said. "What's Lao Zhang's reaction?" "I was so happy that I almost took off." On the phone, Comrade Zhang was already speechless. Zhang Chen laughed and asked quickly, by the way, have you told the curator not to tell Lao Zhang and the others that this sand table is? What a waste of time, have I thought of something that you, a pig, can't even think of? Lu Ligan rolled his eyes at Zhang Chen, otherwise, I'll just ask Lao Zhang and the others to do it and send it over. I still need to pass it through them. I also told Lao Zhang and the others that they must go to the site for production. The exhibition hall has opening and closing hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. In this way, the two land reclamation warriors only have these few hours of work every day. This sand table will take at least half a year, and by then the grass will have been planted in Baibei, otherwise, they can complete it in 2 or 3 months. Lu Ligan said. Zhang Chen couldn't stop laughing, thinking that Lu Ligan's move was good. This would be a once and for all solution. Otherwise, let them make their own arrangements. These two land reclamation warriors felt that they had a heavy responsibility on their shoulders. He would forget about food and sleep and spend time in the studio in the underground parking lot day and night. Zhang Chen remembered something and asked, by the way, how much did you spend? Do you want to take care of it, Lu Ligan said, or are you going to give me the money? Come on, I don't want more, you can give me 5 million. Get out, Zhang Chen cursed. Lu Ligan tilted his head and looked at Zhang Chen. After looking at it for a while, he said tisk, straightened up, and said to Zhang Chen. You don't have to pay, but you must help me if I have a favor. What's the deal? Isn't it Lu Wenqian? Tan Shahen wants to pick up Lu Wenqian. Zhang Chen, please come with us, Lu Ligan said. Going to Hongling Reservoir, Zhang Chen asked. Yes. Zhang Chen quickly shook his head and said no, I have told you a long time ago that this matter is too cruel. Even if you say that you are like a flower, I will not participate. Damn it, I just let you accompany me, but I didn't let you participate. Wenwen and Qian have already agreed, and they also agreed to send Lu Wenqian to Hangzhou. This is good for the children. However, Lu Wenqian cried last time. It was so sad that Qian took her back and asked her to take it easy. She agreed that day that we would pick her up in a few days, otherwise she would send her over. This is not the case. Tan Shahen also wants to go there and see it. Going to pay homage to the place where you fought? Zhang Chen asked. Go away, Lu Li yelled. Since you have already agreed, why do you still need me? When you two go on the road, are you short of power or light? Do you still need me as a light bulb? Zhang Chen asked next. That's it. Lu Ligan sighed, it seems like I'm starting to be afraid of women now. I'm afraid of Tan Shahen, and I'm also afraid of Wenwen and Qian. When I'm with them, I feel like I'm afraid of women. Like an idiot who can't even speak, you can go and give me courage by the side. Zhang Chen laughed loudly, but still couldn't say it after laughing. He was not involved in this matter. However, there is one thing I want to remind you. Before you go, or not, you should call Qian now and ask her if it is convenient for you to go, Zhang Chen said. What's the inconvenience? Lu Ligan asked, puzzled. Damn it, you are there, dreaming of mandarin ducks and butterflies with Wenwen Qian every day. There are so many people watching there every day. Now, you take Tan Shahen there again and say that this is your wife. Think about it. Isn't this a public demonstration, and aren't you humiliating Qian in front of everyone? Where did you let her face go? Then you went and took Lu Wenqian away? Lu Ligan was stunned. He really hadn't thought about what Zhang Chen said, but that was really what happened. He took Tan Shahen to the Hongling Reservoir. Wu Fool, Brain Case, and those people at Hongling Reservoir will definitely ask themselves who this is, and it is impossible for me not to tell them that this is my wife. This matter will definitely cause a sensation in Hongling Reservoir. It turns out that in Hongling Reservoir, everyone else calls Wenwen and Qian his wives. What about now? Becoming a mistress or a mistress? Not only Qian, but also Tan Shahan will be treated like a rare animal by everyone. Everyone wants to see if this woman is here to accuse her. When will two women fight? Call, if this call hasn't been made, you don't want to go. Zhang Chen said, I can't stand anyone who bullies people like this. Lu Ligan was right when he thought about it. This phone call really had to be made. If Qian didn't agree, it would be really inappropriate for him to take Tan Shahan there. But if he had to go there alone to take Lu Wenqian, could he bring her back? I know, Tan Shahan will definitely have some ideas here. Lu Ligan took out his mobile phone and found Qinqian's number. He hesitated again, thinking that if it was Wenwen, he would be able to speak better. It turned out that this was how he and Wenwen chatted together. You can still continue chatting with Qian, but after a few words, she chokes you back and says, go away. How about calling Wenwen first? Lu Li slid his hand over and found Wenwen's phone number. He hesitated again. Even if Wenwen called her, it would be of no use. When he arrived at the Hongling Reservoir, he still faced Qian. Lu Ligan raised his head, looked at Zhang Chen, and said, or, can you ask Qian for me? No matter what. Zhang Chen shook his head like a rattle. You can't be so unresponsive. Lu Ligan said, using his trick, if you don't fight, just leave him alone, I'll just go. When the sky falls, we'll talk about it then. Zhang Chen glared at him, and Lu Ligan put down his phone, leaned back, and crossed his legs. Zhang Chen was discouraged first and felt that there was really nothing he could do against this bastard. He thought for a while and finally picked up his mobile phone. Lu Ligan saw him and smiled. I knew you, Zhang Chen, were soft-hearted. Zhang Chen ignored him, found Qinqian's phone number in the address book, and dialed it. As soon as the phone call came through, Qian shouted on the other end of the phone, Brother Zhang Chen, why did you think of calling me? Do you miss me? Zhang Chen smiled and said, yes, I miss you, Qian. That's what happened. Ganzi and Tan Shahan wanted to go to Hongling Reservoir and asked me to accompany them. However, I have a lot of things to do here. It's really hard to leave if it doesn't open. I won't go there and call you to tell you. I understand, Brother Zhang Chen, please come over when you have time. Okay, Qian, is it convenient for them to come to your place? Zhang Chen asked. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Zhang Chen waited with the phone. After a while, Qian sighed and said, thank you, Brother Zhang Chen, you still thought of this. In fact, he has been here for so many years. Wenwen and I have been with him, and there was no result in the end. To say that it is embarrassing, the two of us have already lost face. There's nothing to lose, let them come, it'll be fine. Zhang Chen also sighed. Qian smiled and said, Brother Zhang Chen, maybe this is also in front of everyone to help me draw an end. Do you think that after they leave, the handsome guys who come to pursue me will be as numerous as flies? Yes, definitely yes, Zhang Chen said. Thank you, Brother Zhang Chen. Qian said and hung up the phone. The corners of her mouth were still raised and she was smiling, but her face was already filled with tears. Not only because of the embarrassment she would face, but also because she knew that Lu Wenqian must leave her this time. Zhang Chen put down the phone and stared at Lu Ligan. Lu Ligan stood up and said, don't look at me like that. Your hair will stand up when you look at me. When Lu Ligan walked to the door, Zhang Chen shouted, take Zhang Xiangzi with you. Okay, Lu Ligan said, father's debt and daughter's debt will be repaid. It's okay. We'll settle both sides. Get lost, Zhang Chen chased after him. Thank you Lao Chentang and book friend 201703031958399050 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you a nice weekend. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2259. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen took Zhang Xiangzi on the road. It was summer vacation. Zhang Chen asked Lu Ligan to take Zhang Xiangzi because he felt that if Lu Wenqian had something to say, he might not tell the adults, but would tell Zhang Xiangzi that Zhang Xiangzi would be there when they wanted to. When leaving Hongling Reservoir, Lu Wenqian probably wouldn't be so sad. Another purpose is to let Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen take Zhang Xiangzi to broaden his horizons. At Hongling Reservoir, there are vegetable fields growing vegetables, fish are raised in the reservoir, chickens are raised in the mountains, and pigs are raised in pig pens. These are things Zhang Xiangzi has never seen before, and she needs to get up close and personal with them. Zhang Xiangzi could even see how the electricity needed for so many bright lights in the city, which he uses every day, is generated. When Lu Ligan and the others arrived at Hongling Reservoir, it was already past 6 o'clock in the evening, and the sky was still bright. However, most of the guests who came to Hongling Reservoir for a day trip had already left, and the rest were filled with the smell of fish here. Eat in the hotel, or be a guest staying here. The gate of Hongling Reservoir was closed, but the small door in the door was open for people to come in and out. Lu Ligan honked the horn, and a security guard came out of the communication room. Lu Ligan stuck his head out and cursed. "Hurry up and open the door for me." The security guard grinned. I asked who it was, and it turned out that Mr. Lu is back. He quickly ran over and opened the door, then walked towards Lu Ligan. When he approached, he stood at attention and saluted Lu Ligan. Lu Ligan laughed and threw a cigarette. "Give it to him," and the security guard says, thank you, Mr. Lu." "How is business now?" Lu Ligan asked. "It must be good. There seem to be more people coming this year than last year. Many people come to us for live broadcasts and wedding photos. What about Mango Channel's challenge show? Is it still being filmed here?" Lu Ligan asked. "Now, the latest issue will start the day after tomorrow." As the security guard said this, he saw Tan Shahen and Zhang Xiangzi in the car, was stunned for a moment, and asked, "Mr. Lu, are these your wife and children?" Lu Ligan didn't bother to explain, and responded in a haphazard manner. He waved to the security guard and drove in. Lu Ligan stopped the car in the parking lot in the woods. The trees here had grown very tall. The parking lot was almost full of cars, and there were 3 tourist buses. It seemed that the security guard was right. Business was still good, and Lu Ligan breathed a sigh of relief. Along the way, Lu Ligan has been worried about whether the business of Hongling Reservoir will not be as good as before. It is the same for every unit. As long as the business declines and the income decreases, all kinds of conflicts will arise, which will be very annoying. No matter, Qian will be under a lot of pressure. Wenwen and Qian now rarely contact Lu Ligan, let alone discuss business matters with him. Lu Ligan sometimes called Fu Wu to learn more about the situation here, but Fu Wu didn't grasp the core things after all. Zhang Xiangzi got out of the car and became excited when he saw such a high dam in front of him. He asked, "Uncle Pole, where is Lu Wenqian?" Lu Ligan pointed to the top of the dam and said, "Up there." "Are we going to climb up from here?" Zhang Xiangzi asked with his eyes wide open. Lu Ligan was right. Zhang Xiangzi put his hands on his waist, looked up at the top of the dam, and nodded, "So high. I have no problem." "Aunt Shahen, can you do it?" Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen laughed. Tan Shahen said, "It's too high. I can't climb up. Zixi, you have to help me." "Okay." Zhang Xiangzi nodded and said seriously, "After I climb up, I will find a rope to lower it down. Aunt Shahen, if you hold the rope, you can climb up, right?" Tan Shahen nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, thank you Zixi." The escalators and steps to the top of the dam are on the side of the dam close to the ridge. The flowers and trees on both sides of the passage have grown very tall. You can't see the escalators and steps from them, You can only see there and the surrounding area. It's the same green and brilliant color. People who don't know it think it's connected to the mountain. Lu Ligan led them over. Zhang Xiangzi was disappointed when he saw that they were going up by an elevator. He walked to the elevator and looked up. The escalator was so long and covered by the ceiling above. It was like a tunnel climbing to the top of the dam. Zhang Xiangzi became excited again, yelling that such a long elevator was the same as the one on the mountain in Hong Kong. The three people arrived at the top of the dam and saw a lot of people waiting at the elevator exit. It seemed that the security guard had called up and informed them of the important points. These people came to see the excitement and to see Lu Ligan's wife and children. When some people saw Lu Ligan, they called him Mr. Lu, and more people were laughing. Lu Ligan cursed. "What are you looking at and you don't recognize it? We know you, burned to ashes, and there are two others who we don't know." "Mr. Lu, please introduce them," Braincase said. "Okay," Lu Ligan introduced, "this is my wife Tan Shahen." Tan Shahen smiled and nodded to everyone, saying hello. A large group of people on the opposite side also nodded together. "This is my niece, the daughter of Mr. Zhang who was here last time," Lu Ligan continued to introduce Zhang Xiangzi. Zhang Xiangzi searched the crowd opposite, but did not find Lu Wenqian. She pulled Tan Shahen's hand and said, "Hey, where's my sister? Why didn't my sister come?" Tan Shahen smiled and said, "You can see it later." Lu Ligan looked around the crowd, but did not see Wu Ful and Qian Qian. Lu Ligan asked, "Where is Wu Ful?" "He must be reading in the office," Big Brain said. Lu Ligan was hesitating whether to ask Qian Qian again. The hotel manager Xiao Mei seemed to know what Lu Ligan was looking for. She came over and said to Lu Ligan, "Qian Qian is waiting for you in box number 1. I will take you to stay first, and then go to dinner." Lu Ligan said yes, and he scolded the group of people opposite, "I've lost so much popularity. I've been driving for a day and my back is sore. When I get here, no one can even help me carry my luggage." The group of men and women on the opposite side laughed and immediately swarmed over and took away the luggage from Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen. Even the school bag Zhang Xiangzi was carrying was helped by a little girl. At night, Lu Ligan and Tan Shahen slept in the houseboat, and Zhang Xiangzi slept in the small villa with Lu Wenqian. At this time, the sun has just set, and there is no sunshine. It is the time when the swimming pool in the reservoir has the most people, and the people rowing in the reservoir. It will be more than an hour before it gets completely dark. After dark, rowing is no longer allowed. This is still the system established by Lu Ligan back then. As soon as Zhang Xiangzi saw these scenes, he wanted to go swimming and rowing. Lu Ligan quickly told her that he should go to eat and see his little sister first, and we can row the boat tomorrow. The three people arrived at the number 1 box of the fish restaurant, opened the door, and saw Qian Qian and Lu Wenqian here. Lu Wenqian had an iPad in front of her and was watching cartoons. When she saw them coming in, Lu Wenqian did not call them, nor did she say anything to them. They ran over, but stood up, ran behind Qian Qian, hid and couldn't help hiding, and stuck out a head from behind Qian Qian. Zhang Xiangzi walked towards her and stretched out his hand. Lu Wenqian continued to hide behind Qian Qian. Zhang Xiangzi took her hand. Lu Wenqian hesitated for a moment, stretched out her other hand and took Zhang Xiangzi's other hand. Holding hands together, Lu Wenqian grinned. "Call me sister," Zhang Xiangzi said. Lu Wenqian called, "Sister." "Wen Qian, don't call me anymore," Tan Shahen asked. Lu Wenqian turned her head and called, "Big Mom." "Where's me?" Lu Ligan shouted. "Dad." Lu Wenqian laughed and called. Qian Qian smiled at Tan Shahen and said to her, "It's like this when you first meet people. It gets better once you get to know them better." Tan Shahen nodded, took Qinqin's hand, sat down next to her, and asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm just busy." I've been busy all day long. It's the peak season here. Qian smiled. Qian looked a little nervous. She led Lu Wenqin to hide here. Lu Ligan knew that she just didn't want to meet them in public, even though she was very decisive on the phone yesterday, saying that she had already lost all the shame she deserved. Lost. The manager of the restaurant opened the door and came in. He glanced at Tan Shahan the first time he came in. Then he looked at Qian and asked, "Can the food be served?" Qian nodded and said, "Okay." The waiter who brought the food in also looked at Tan Shahan when he came in, and then turned his eyes to the table. Lu Ligan also looked at Tan Shahan. Tan Shahan didn't seem to see anything, and turned her head away to talk to Qian. When the waiter served the dishes for the second time, the moment the door opened, Lu Ligan saw 4 or 5 people standing in the corridor at the door. They were all chefs and waiters here. He looked inside and met Lu Ligan's gaze. He quickly got out of the way. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahan said, "I will show you around this fish restaurant." Tan Shahan said yes, stood up, smiled and said to Qian, "I will come back as soon as I go." Qian said yes. The two children have long since returned to normal and are now together. They are crowded on a chair and chattering. Zhang Xiangzi is talking to Lu Wenqin about why Beyond the Realm is so good. She is on the iPad. Helped Lu Wenqin find resources. Qian sat there alone, picked up her phone to look at it, put it down, and picked it up again to look at it. She didn't even know what she wanted to look at. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahan came back and sat down. Tan Shahan and Qian said that the hotel business was good and there were many guests. Qian smiled. Lu Ligan had just led Tan Shahan around the restaurant, and even went to the back kitchen. Since they were curious, he let them see enough at once. When the waiter brought food in, the first thing he saw was not to see Tan Shahan. Instead, he looked at the countertop. There were no more people poking around in the corridor outside the door. Lu Ligan said to the waiter, "Go and call Guan Ke and Wu Fool for me, and ask them to come over and drink with me." After a while, the waiter came back and said to Lu Ligan, "Mr. Wu said he had already eaten." "Let him come over after eating," Lu Ligan said, and the waiter said, "Oh." After a while, Big Brain and Wu Shizi opened the door and walked in. Lu Ligan scolded, "When did you become so polite? I can't even see your shadow even if I drink wine." Big Brain and Wu Shizi laughed. They looked at Tan Shahan, but didn't say anything they wanted to say. Lu Ligan and Wu Shizi said, "Come on, let me introduce you formally. This is my wife Tan Shahan." I know, I've seen director Tan's style from the internet," Wu Fool said. "Thanks for the reward of 2 fishes. Thank you for your monthly votes from Yunlong Frogfish, and How, Breeze 365, Tamagotchi, Happy Lu Hong, and Xiao Shen Nian Fang 48. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2260. While eating, Zhang Xiangzi had been educating Lu Wenqin. Lu Wenqin dropped her rice on the table, and Zhang Xiangzi asked Lu Wenqin to pick it up and eat it. Every grain is hard work. Lu Wenqin, do you know that you can't waste food? If you waste food, you will be struck by thunder when it rains, Zhang Xiangzi said. The adults all laughed as they listened. Lu Ligan knew that every step of the way was hard work. It must be what Xiao Fang said when she was educating Zhang Xiangzi. It must be Zhang Chen's mother who taught Zhang Xiangzi that he would be struck by thunder when it rains. Zhang Xiangzi must have accepted it. It is mixed education. Qian sat on the edge and was secretly surprised as she watched. Originally, Lu Wenqin was the most troublesome when eating. Not only was she slow, but she also fought guerrillally with you. She would hide around the table after finishing a meal. The table was a mess, filled with rice balls and vegetable soup. Zhang Xiangzi is here today. Not only does she eat quickly, but she also eats well. When Zhang Xiangzi asks her to eat vegetables, she eats vegetables obediently. When Zhang Xiangzi asks her to eat meat, she eats meat obediently. When eating, the rice grains and vegetables are still there. She was not allowed to drop them outside. In addition to the hard work and being struck by lightning, Zhang Xiangzi also told her that if she didn't eat well, people would laugh her teeth out. Let me tell you, Lu Wenqian, if you make the table very dirty when eating and develop a habit, when you grow up, it will be too late to change it, and you will be looked down upon, and no one will play with you, you know. No. Zhang Xiangzi said. Lu Wenqian nodded and started eating carefully. Zhang Xiangzi always had a way of explaining everything he did. When Lu Wenqian wanted to argue, Zhang Xiangzi said, I am doing this for your own good. Do you know that I am educating you? Several adults almost laughed out loud, and Lu Ligan knew that he must have learned this from Xiao Fang. Lu Wenqian's room was the same room that used to belong to Lu Ligan. After taking a bath, Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian climbed onto the bed to play and watch cartoons. When they were taking a shower, Qian wanted to help Zhang Xiangzi, but Zhang Xiangzi didn't want it. She had to wash it herself. She also helped Lu Wenqian take a bath. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Lu Wenqian still wanted to continue watching cartoons, but Zhang Xiangzi said no, it was time and she could go to bed. Sister, can you let me take a look again? Lu Wenqian requested. Zhang Xiangzi shook her head. She said no, if I allow you to read it once and for all, you will definitely want to read it again. That would be bad, it would never end. Lu Wenqian, let me tell you, when the time comes, no matter where you look, even if you see the most beautiful place, you must stop. This is called self-discipline, do you understand? Lu Wenqian shook her head and said she didn't understand. What is self-discipline, sister? That's what I just said. But you just said a lot. That's what I said in the end, when the time is up, even if you see the most beautiful place, you have to turn off the iPad. Zhang Xiangzi thought for a moment and then said, also, if you have a lot of candy, you tell yourself, if I eat 3 candies today, then if you finish 3, this candy is very good, very good, very good, very good, the most delicious, and you can't eat it? This is called self-discipline. Lu Wenqian understood. She quickly turned off the iPad and said to Zhang Xiangzi, Sister, I have disciplined myself. Zhang Xiangzi nodded and said old-fashionedly, yes, you are really a good boy. The two lay down side by side. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian said good night and closed their eyes. Lu Wenqian looked at Zhang Xiangzi and followed her example and closed her eyes. After a while, she couldn't help it anymore and said, Elder sister. Zhang Xiangzi shushed and lowered his voice and said to her, after you say good night, you are not allowed to talk. Lu Wenqian said oh and quickly closed her mouth. After a while, she thought about what was wrong and said, Sister, but just now, you also spoke, after saying good night. Zhang Xiangzi opened his eyes, turned to look at Lu Wenqian, and said, I was educating you just now. You will definitely be able to speak if you educate me. If you educate me, you can also speak. Zhang Xiangzi also asked Xiao Fang the question that Lu Wenqian just asked, and Xiao Fang answered it just like he answered Lu Wenqian just now. Zhang Xiangzi asked, do you have anything to teach me? Lu Wenqian shook her head, no. If you don't, you're not allowed to talk. Close your eyes, do you understand? Lu Wenqian said oh and closed her eyes. For breakfast the next day, they did not go to the fish restaurant, but ate on the terrace outside. Lu Ligan and Tan Shahan also came to eat together, and Qian asked the hotel to send breakfast. The 3 adults were chatting while eating. Looking at the scenery outside the terrace, Tan Shahen sighed, "This place is so beautiful, it really feels like a paradise." Qian smiled and thought to herself, "What's the use of being beautiful? No matter how beautiful she is, she can't keep people in the mountains and valleys. Even Lu Wenqian needs to leave here and go outside." Qian felt sad when she thought that Lu Wenqian would definitely leave this time. But looking at Zhang Xiangzi, she felt that Wenqian should be like Zhang Xiangzi in the future and not be like a wild child. Thinking like this, she felt better. The two children had eaten quickly and were about to go out to play. Tan Shahen asked Qian if it would be too dangerous. Qian said it was okay. Wenqian usually played around alone and would not go out anyway. If she went out, the security guard at the gate would see her and stop her. There are guard rails in dangerous places in the reservoir, and there are so many the staff will be watching and everything will be fine. Tan Shahen nodded. Seeing Lu Wenqian and Zhang Xiangzi walking out hand in hand, Qian sighed and said, "Wenqian usually doesn't have a company and plays alone. Thinking about it now makes her feel a little uncomfortable." Tan Shahen said quickly, "Children are like this nowadays. If there are several children in the family, it will be fine when they go to kindergarten and start having classmates. By the way, when they go to Hangzhou, Zixi will be her companion." "It's the teacher," Qian said, and the three of them laughed. Lu Wenqian took Zhang Xiangzi with her. She was so happy that she really wanted to take her sister to all the fun places here and eat all the delicious food. But when she led her sister and held her hand, she was clearly leading her, but she felt like she was following her sister. Following her sister, Lu Wenqian walked with her breasts straightened out. Lu Wenqian took Zhang Xiangzi to the fish restaurant first, found an ant, and asked her for rice. She probably came to ask for it often. The ant didn't even ask, just let her get it by herself. Lu Wenqian grabbed a handful of rice and put it in. He grabbed another handful from his left pocket and put it into his right pocket. Zhang Xiangzi asked Lu Wenqian, "What is the rice used for?" Lu Wenqian said, "Feed the chickens. There are many chickens on the mountain. They are hiding in the woods and under the leaves. As soon as the rice is scattered, they all run out." Zhang Xiangzi was overjoyed when he heard this and grabbed 2 handfuls of rice and put them in his pocket. Then, the ant gave them each a piece of bread. Lu Wenqian and Zhang Xiangzi said that they were going to feed the fish. The two of them walked under the dam. Of course, what Lu Wenqian wanted to feed was not the fish in the reservoir, but the fish rafts under the fish restaurant. On both sides of the bamboo rafts, there were cages, and the fishing teams were kept in the cages. Fish caught from the reservoir are stocked here for diners to choose. The two people broke the bread into pieces little by little and threw it into the cage. The fish were fighting for the bread crumbs. They were so eager that their tails or backs were exposed out of the water, creating a big splash and almost splashing on their faces. The two people giggled. After feeding the 2 breads, the two of them walked back from the bamboo raft. At this time, although it was morning, there were still some parents at the swimming pool who had brought their children to swim. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian were sitting on the dike. Looking at it, Lu Wenqian asked Zhang Xiangzi, "Sister, can you swim?" "Yes." Zhang Xiangzi nodded and said, "I was very young. When I was as young as you, I could already swim. My father took me to learn it. He said that swimming is a skill that everyone must learn." Lu Wenqian didn't understand and asked, "Why must you learn to swim, sister?" "You can protect yourself." Zhang Xiangzi said, "My father said that if you learn to swim, you won't drown if you fall into the water." Lu Wenqian thought hard. She was thinking about whether her father brought her here to learn swimming when she was young. Lu Wenqian thought about it for a long time and couldn't remember. Neither mother could swim, so they would definitely not bring her here to learn swimming. In the summer, Lu Wenqian took a shower every day on the terrace. Sometimes she came here and wanted to go into the water, but the security officer wouldn't allow her to go in, saying that her mother had told them. Lu Wenqin sighed and said, "Sister, I don't want to drown either. If you learn to swim, you won't drown. Don't you know how to swim?" Zhang Xiangzi asked. Lu Wenqin shook her head. Zhang Xiangzi said, "Then I'll teach you and we'll learn in the afternoon." Really? Lu Wenqin's eyes lit up and she shouted, then dimmed. She said, "But my mother won't agree. Every time I think about it, even if I see it, that uncle over there won't allow me to go down." Said what mother told him. Zhang Xiangzi confidently said to Lu Wenqin, "Don't worry, I'll tell my aunt that learning to swim is the right thing. We must insist on it, so that adults will agree. Do you understand?" Lu Wenqin nodded. After a while, she remembered another thing and asked, "Sister, you said swimming is something everyone must learn, but Mom and the others are so old, why can't they swim? My mother can swim, Aunt Chehen can also swim, your mother and the others." Zhang Xiangzi thought for a moment and said, "They probably thought that when they fell into the water, they would wait for others to rescue them." Lu Wenqin nodded and said, "I think so. Two people wanted to go boating, but the uncle who was in charge of the boat guarded the iron gate and refused to let them in. He told them that an adult must take them to row." "Why?" Zhang Xiangzi asked. "You are too young to be safe," the uncle said. "But, I can swim," Zhang Xiangzi said. The uncle laughed and said to her, "You can swim, but you can't row. If you can't row, the boat will hit other things and there will still be danger. Also, you can swim, Wenqin can't swim, you haven't learned how to save people, have you? Look, in every boat here, if there are children rowing by themselves, they are all taken by adults." Zhang Xiangzi listened, nodded, and said, "Uncle, what you said makes sense. Then let's ask the adults to take us to paddle." The uncle looked at her and couldn't help laughing. He looked around and shouted loudly. A young man ran over and the uncle said to him, "Take Wen Qian and the others for a walk around the reservoir. Thank you to Boss, Fish Eater, and Zongkai 727 for your monthly passes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone." The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 2261. The young man rowed the boat and took Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin around the Hongling Reservoir. When they were about to return to the dock where the small rowing boat was parked, the young man asked them if they wanted to row again. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin, their heads and arms were burned by the sun, but they still nodded vigorously and said they wanted it. The young man smiled and said, "Wait a minute." He put away the oars and walked into the cabin from the stern. The boat shook violently, and Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin screamed and giggled. The young man raised the awning on the roof of the cabin so that Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin could not bask in the sun. The uncle in charge of the boat heard the screams of the two girls, looked over there, and shouted loudly, asking the young man to row the boat back. The young man asked Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin, "What should they do if they want us to go back? The boat awning has just been raised, and both Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin are in high spirits. How can they go back at this time?" Zhang Xiangzi shouted over there, "Uncle, we didn't hear what you said." Then he told the young man, let's go, brother, let's go quickly." The young man laughed and said yes. He picked up the oar and swung it in the water twice, and the boat turned around. The uncle in charge of the boat continued to shout, but the boat was getting further and further away. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin's giggles drowned out his voice. They circled around the reservoir again before rowing back to the dock. By this time, it was time for lunch. The sun at noon was very scorching, and there was no one in the swimming pool. Even the safety guards had gone back to have lunch, and the rowing boats in the reservoir had all docked. The uncle in charge of the boat, wearing a straw hat, stood on the dock waiting for them. When they approached, he threatened the young man while stretching out his hand to pull Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian ashore. The young man also jumped ashore without even tying up the boat. Threw the rope in his hand to the dock. The uncle waved his hand and slapped the young man on the back of the head. The young man was well prepared, slumped and dodged, shouted "I'm going to eat," and ran away. The uncle wanted to catch up and make up for it, but the untied boat swung away. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian both shouted "ship," but the uncle looked back, quickly turned around and chased after him, and stepped on the snake that was standing on the dock. Same sliding cable. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian laughed as they watched. Zhang Xiangzi bowed to his uncle and shouted "Thank you, uncle." Lu Wenqian saw it and bowed as Zhang Xiangzi did, but what she said was "Thank you Haitantu." People in Hongling Reservoir called the uncle in charge of the boat Haitantu because he is black. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian walked to the top of the embankment and went back. When they were about to reach the small building, they remembered that the rice was still in their pockets and they didn't even feed the chickens. "Oh no, sister, those chickens must be waiting for us," Lu Wenqian said. Zhang Xiangzi said, "Then let's run over and feed the chickens first and then come back for dinner." Lu Wenqian said yes. As soon as the two people ran to the office building, Lu Ligan came out of Wu Fu's office, saw them, stopped them, and asked them where they were going. The two children were chattering. Zhang Xiangzi said that he was going to feed the chickens, and Lu Wenqian said that the chickens were starving to death. Lu Ligan looked up at the sky and said to them seriously, "It's too hot today and the chickens are sleeping in. They are not hungry yet. Let's take a walk and go back to have lunch before going back." Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian had no choice but to follow Lu Ligan back. At noon, the fish restaurant was very busy. They did not go to the private room of the fish restaurant to eat. Instead, they ate in the living room at home. Qian asked the waiter to bring the food. During the meal, Lu Wenqian kept winking at Zhang Xiangzi and calling her sister. Zhang Xiangzi didn't know what she was going to do. Lu Wenqian got a little anxious and spit in her mouth. Only then did Zhang Xiangzi remember that Qian said, "Aunt Qian, I will teach Lu Wenqian how to swim in the afternoon. My father said that swimming is a skill that everyone must learn." Lu Wenqian looked at Qian eagerly. Before Qian could say anything, Lu Ligan shouted, Okay, but not in the afternoon. The sun outside is too strong. Let's swim in the evening. When Qian is old enough to learn to swim. When I was your age, I could already swim in the Zinan River." Lu Wenqian looked at Qian, but Qian didn't say anything. Lu Ligan asked, "Wenqian, do you have a swimsuit?" Lu Wenqian shook her head, and Zhang Xiangzi immediately shouted, "I brought 2 swimsuits, and I can give one to Lu Wenqian." Tan Shahen smiled and said, "It's too big, how can your Wenqian wear it?" Qian said, "The service department of the hotel sells them." This was consent. Lu Wenqian breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that it was so simple. It seemed that it was really good to have her father around. No wonder Zhang Xiangzi had learned how to swim from her father so early. "I'll take you to buy something after dinner," Lu Ligan said, and Lu Wenqian nodded. After eating, Lu Ligan took Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqian to the small shop next to the hotel and bought a swimsuit for Lu Wenqian. As Lu Wenqian grew up, she looked at other children who came here to play with envy every year. Wearing a colorful swimsuit, it was the first time she had her own swimsuit. She was so happy that she wanted to wear it on the spot. Lu Ligan changed for her and stuffed the changed clothes into his vest pocket. The rice in the pocket leaked out. Zhang Xiangzi saw it and asked, "Uncle Zhangzi, are those chickens hungry now?" Lu Ligan smiled and said, "I'm hungry, let's go feed him now." Lu Ligan bought 3 popsicles, and the 3 of them ate the popsicles and walked outside. Along the way, when I met the staff of Hongling Reservoir, they playfully called Lu Ligan Mr. Lu. Lu Ligan asked, What do you mean by smiling so treacherously? In fact, he knew what it meant. The other party continued to smile and said no, no. When I met Xiaomei smiled like this, and Lu Ligan scolded her the same way. Xiaomei replied, I see Mr. Lu is not smiling, why should I cry? Lu Lepole gave the other party a thumbs up and said, yes, that's smart. Lu Wenqin saw that Xiaomei didn't seem to see the new swimsuit on her body. She pulled Xiaomei's clothes and said to her, Aunt Xiaomei, is this my swimsuit? Xiaomei looked at it and praised, it's so beautiful. Lu Wenqin smiled proudly and said boldly to Xiaomei, when Taiyang Mimi is little, my sister will teach me how to swim. The three of them continued to walk forward. The roads here were still the same as when Lu Ligan was here. They had not been renovated much in the past few years, and there were no new projects. When they were in Fool Wu's office in the morning, Lu Ligan even scolded Wu. Fools, why don't you know how to keep pace with the times? Wu Fool said, Jijin has improved, but it is all in the villages outside, and everyone has replanted vegetables. In the Hongling Reservoir, we don't know what else needs to be added, or else, Mr. Lu, can you give us some advice? Lu Ligan walked and looked around, and he also felt that there was really nothing that could be added here, and the places that should be used have already been used. On this road at their feet, when Lu Ligan was here, he had a bamboo basket in front of him, and Lu Wenqin sat in the bamboo basket. They walked here almost every day. In a blink of an eye, Lu Wenqin was already walking in front of her in a swimsuit. Next year, they all go to kindergarten in Hangzhou. At that time, Lu Ligan felt that he would never have imagined such a situation today. We walked to the rock climbing area. In such a hot weather, there were 2 people climbing there. They came to participate in the water challenge on Mango Terrace. The props for the challenge had been set up in the reservoir, not far from the rock climbing cliff. In the distance, these 2 people originally wanted to come early to familiarize themselves with the venue, but the staff refused to let them in, saying that it was the TV station who told them. The purpose of the TV station is to make you make a fool of yourself in front of everyone's eyes. How can it be possible for you to master all the props and run to the finish line one by one? Helpless, the 2 of them came here to rock climb and train. Zhang Xiangzi was overjoyed and wanted to go rock climbing. When he arrived yesterday, his attempt to climb the embankment failed. It would be a good idea to climb this. Lu Ligan quickly told her, you need to be energetic when climbing. The sun is too strong now. Let's feed the chickens first. After feeding the chickens, go back and take a nap, okay? We can row over here, okay? Didn't you say you want to row? Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin nodded repeatedly. Neither of them told Lu Ligan that they had actually rowed in the morning. They were afraid that if they told him, he would not take them back. The 3 of them went up the mountain. Lu Wenqin often came to feed the chickens. Many chickens knew her. In addition, the chickens were pecking all day long and were never full. When they saw Lu Wenqin coming, these chickens all came from under the bushes. Get out and walk towards them. Huh, don't think that we don't recognize you just because you're wearing a swimsuit. Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin took out the rice from their pockets and threw it in through the plastic net. The chickens ate happily. They were still not satisfied after eating. Seeing them cooing, Zhang Xiangzi clapped his hands and said to them, no more, I really don't have any more. The chickens still refused to disperse and kept clucking. Zhang Xiangzi became anxious. She turned over her pockets and cried to the chicken. See, I really don't have any, not even one. I didn't lie to you, did you see? The chicken didn't laugh, but Lu Ligan laughed. Back in the small building, Tan Shuhan and Qian had finished eating and were sitting on the sofa chatting. At this time, one of them fell to the left and the other to the right, lying on the armrest of the sofa and fell asleep. The 3 of them crept in. Lu Ligan led Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin to the terrace. The entire terrace was covered by grapevine leaves, and bunches of ripe grapes could be seen through the glass on the ceiling. Lu Ligan asked Zhang Xiangzi and Lu Wenqin to lie down on the bamboo bed to take a nap. He himself fell down on the recliner and fell asleep soon. Cicadas from far and near chirped tirelessly. The sound of cicadas not only did not make people feel noisy, but made this midsummer noon feel more peaceful. The whole world seemed to be in a nap, only they were still there, guarding everyone's daydreams. Zhang Xiangzi closed his eyes, but he didn't feel sleepy at all. After a while, Lu Wenqin lay next to Zhang Xiangzi's ear and shouted softly, "Sister, are you asleep?" Zhang Xiangzi opened his eyes and Lu Wenqin whispered, "Shall we go catch the cicada?" Zhang Xiangzi nodded quickly. The two people tiptoed up, tiptoed through the living room, tiptoed out of the door, and when they got downstairs, they let out a breath. Walking to the door, Zhang Xiangzi looked at the big tree above his head, where cicadas were chirping cicada, cicada, but Zhang Xiangzi didn't know how to catch cicadas. She couldn't climb trees. Lu Wenqin led Zhang Xiangzi to a sycamore tree. This sycamore tree was quite old. It was planted when the Hongling Reservoir was built. It was tall and straight, with spreading branches and leaves, covering 1/3 of the yard. Many people used knives and keys to carve. Someone came here for a visit on the body of the sycamore tree. The writings were of different shades. Many of them were now almost buried by the tree body after being carved on it. Standing under this tree, the chirping of cicadas above my head seems to be more intense. Zhang Xiangzi asked Lu Wenqin, "Can you climb trees?" Lu Wenqin nodded. Zhang Xiangzi said, "Okay, then you climb up and I will help you hold the tree." Lu Wenqin opened her hands and gestured, and said, "I can't even hug such a thick tree. How can I climb up it?" Zhang Xiangzi did not tell Lu Wenqin that he could not climb trees, but said, "I can't carry her either." Zhang Xiangzi looked up at the tree above his head and asked, "Then how did we catch the cicada?" Lu Wenqin laughed and said, "Catch it on the ground." "How can you catch it on a tree? If you climb up, the cicada will fly away." Zhang Xiangzi was surprised. Could cicadas be caught on this ground? Lu Wenqin found a branch and squatted down. She asked Zhang Xiangzi to squat down too. Lu Wenqin pointed to the small holes in the ground and said to Zhang Xiangzi, "Did you see it, sister? This hole is the cicada's home. If you dig down, the cicada's baby will be inside the hole." Zhang Xiangzi really didn't know about this and was very surprised. She pointed to another small hole and asked, "Is this also a cicada's home?" Lu Wenqin shook her head and said, "That one is the home of earthworms. If you see little earthworms at the entrance of the cave, they are the home of earthworms. Only those without small earthworms like this are the homes of cicadas." Lu Wenqin said and started digging with branches. The branches were broken, but there was nothing inside. Lu Wenqin and Zhang Xiangzi said, "Their baby is already old and going to kindergarten." Then she dug the second one, and Zhang Xiangzi followed suit. As she dug, she saw a head coming out of the ground. Zhang Xiangzi screamed "Ah!" and threw the stick away. He took a few steps back. The head came out. What came out was not a cicada, but a small cricket-like animal. After getting out of the hole, it ran away quickly. Zhang Xiangzi stood there and didn't dare to move. Lu Wenqin chased after him and threw her hands at him, but in the end she didn't catch him. Zhang Xiangzi was frightened and did not dare to dig anymore. Lu Wenqin continued to dig. When they dug the fourth hole, Lu Wenqin dug out a black pupa from the ground. Lu Wenqin poked it with her hands and asked Zhang Xiangzi to do the same. Zhang Xiangzi didn't dare to dial, so he asked, "What is this?" "This is a cicada baby," Lu Wenqin said. "Leave it at home for a few days and the little cicada will come out." Zhang Xiangzi stared at this mass of things, not believing that this was cicadas. Such an ugly thing, like a piece of dog shit. How could it be cicadas? How beautiful cicadas are. Braincase came out of the office, holding a cup, and flicked his hand, spilling the water on the ground outside. He saw Lu Wenqian in a swimsuit and Zhang Xiangzi squatting under the sycamore tree, and walked over. "Uncle, do you understand this?" Zhang Xiangzi saw Big Brain coming over and asked him. Big Brain took a look and said, "Yes, I'll find a box for you to raise him. If you see it, I will say it is, right," Lu Wenqian and Zhang Xiangzi said. "Thank you. Actually, I really care about Brokeback Mountain and the reward of 2 fishes." "Thank you, actually, I really care." Zhao 1017, "I am only 48 years old, I don't see a future, only remember my original intention, Yunlong Frogfish, on the road to a nation, hoo, void and broken dreams, it's not an impossible world, happy Lu Hong." Shachin monthly tickets for Mood, Humor Tribe, and Book Friends 0906241115120009. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health.